And I will also allow Senator Beatrice Akinyi under 1 minute to extend the word welcome to the delegation from the County Assembly of Garissa. In that order, proceed, Senator Mutata.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to address this august House in welcoming a delegation from Busia. The honorable members seated here from Busia County Assembly and their support staff belong to the Jailer Committee and are here on a learning tour. They're on a study tour to familiarize themselves with the parliamentary processes, because they want to ensure that Busia flies high. They want to ensure that the bylaws that are made in Busia are bylaws that are in consonance with the Constitution and with the national legislation. So I welcome you to this august House. Feel at home, make use of the opportunities you have. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I would also plead to you if you have got any slush fund somewhere to help them, because they really need a lot of training to be able to do what they're supposed to do. They realize that their capacity is very low, and they are reaching out to the Senate to assist them. With those few remarks, I welcome you, feel at home, and have a fruitful tour. And thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Honorable Speaker, I would like to take this chance to welcome the team from the Garissa County Assembly, and just to give them the comfort that we are partners in the oversight function that the two levels play over county governments. Honorable Speaker, I also want to give them the convenience that the County Public Finance Law Amendment Bill 2023 now finally is going to give the assemblies the autonomy in running their funds. This has been long awaited, and the county assemblies have been longing for this independence. And to tell them that the Public Finance Amendment Act has been amended by inserting the following new sections immediately after Section 109. And the most critical is that they establish for each county a fund to be known as the County Assembly Fund. So I think that is good news for the counties, and as a Senate, we are committed to giving service to the counties as expected. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Next order, clerk.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Senator for Busia, Senator Mutata.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise under, I have a petition for the protection of the right to life, health, and a clean environment, and other constitutionally protected rights and fundamental freedoms of the residents of Uyombo village in Masangoni ward, Masangoni constituency, Kilifi County. We, the undersigned citizens of the Republic of Kenya and residents of Uyombo village in Masangoni ward, Kilifi South constituency, Kilifi County, draw the attention of the Senate of the Republic of Kenya to the following. That Kilifi County has a population of 1,453,787 people according to the census of 2019, and is home to 4,153 fishermen, and has a total of 199,674 families practicing agriculture on 112,879 hectares of land. The county has continued to support education programs with 1,550 ECD centers, 41 vocational training centers, 538 primary schools, and 86 secondary schools. That Uyombe village in Masangoni ward, that's Kilifi County, the North Coast region of Kenya, has been earmarked to play host to a nuclear reactor by the Nuclear Power and Energy Agency, NUPEA. That NUPEA is a state corporation established under Section 54 of the Energy Act of 2019 and tasked with the responsibility to promote and implement Kenya's nuclear power program. Paragraph 4 lays out the mandate of NUPEA, and I will skip it because it's in the statute. Paragraph 5, that the preservation and realization of the right to a clean and healthy environment for all is greatly anchored in the strict adherence to procedural environmental rights, that's access to information, public participation, and access to effective remedy in cases of the violation, in ensuring the right to a clean and healthy environment. Therefore, it's pertinent that all procedural rights are upheld without compromise. That the people of Uyombe have been denied access to information regarding the nuclear reactor and have been excluded from the decision-making process. That the Uyombe community have been excluded in the participation that led to choosing the site. That no measures have been put in place for effective remedies or access to justice in cases of a nuclear spill for the people of Kilifi County. The nuclear modular reactors will use uranium in their processes. That the uranium will produce radioactive waste. That the half-life of uranium is 4.5 billion years. That this makes the project highly sensitive, risky, extremely toxic, and dangerous for the county and beyond, for people, the land, flora, and fauna, into future generations. The petition goes on to state what the report of the Presidential Task Force on the review of power purchase stated. I will not read that. It's on record. That the Ministry of Finance, therefore, as a result of that report, erred in allocating 2 billion to NUPEA. The Sustainable Development calls for prioritizing sustainability and community well-being and environmentally friendly projects to avoid social and cultural disruption. That nuclear energy is an extremely sensitive venture that requires high levels of professionalism and strict due diligence and fidelity to the rule of law. That NUPEA has exhibited a high level of mediocrity and unprofessionalism in choosing the location for the nuclear power plant. That Uyombe Reef and Mida Creek, with its mangrove system, part of the Watamu Marine National Park and Reserve, is home to many endangered species of marine life and is included in the Watamu/Malindi UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. The area attracts many special interest conservationists, scientists, and tourists who are opposed to the location of the project. This area is known as a biodiversity hotspot and must be protected at all costs. That Uyombe community also borders the Arabuko Sakoke Forest, Nature Kenya States. Arabuko Sakoke Forest is the last large protected fragment of the East African coastal forest and home to 4 endangered mammals and 6 threatened birds. The forest also provides sources of livelihood for the neighboring communities and ecological services for the country. It must be conserved for the people of Kenya. That the area is a home to coral reefs, mangroves, dolphins, and whales, which attract many tourists, researchers, and special interest groups. That the area therefore is a very sensitive and unique ecosystem, deserving for protection for Kenya's future generations, and that Kenya's tourism, with the socioeconomic benefits, must not be exposed to such high-risk ventures. That this therefore disqualifies the location chosen by NUPEA and calls for further research into a new location for the reactor. That choosing Uyombo increases the cost on the taxpayer for risk mitigation. That NUPEA has failed to perform a risk assessment analysis in choosing the proposed site. That Kenya has signed the Vienna Convention on Civil Liberty for nuclear damage that covers liability and compensation. That Kenya is yet to ratify the Pelindaba Treaty, making it possible grounds for suspicion of setting up nuclear weapons by any mischievous regime in power, which could cause instability in the region. That the legal framework for management of nuclear power plants in Kenya is not adequate. EMCA, that's the Environment Management Act, is weak, Conservation Act, is weak on risks assessment, liability, and compensation. That there is no effective legal framework for disaster management in Kenya based on how floods, drought, and the uhuru-led contamination case that there is no existing policy framework for radioactive waste management, that there is no remediation policy in Kenya, and NEMA is unable even to deal with the uhuru-led contamination and poisoning that happened in 2009 and is fighting in court against remediation to the affected community. The Japan's Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry estimated the total cost of remediating the Fukushima site was yen 21.5 trillion, which is equivalent to 187 billion, almost twice the previous estimate of yen 11 trillion, that was 96 billion US dollars. That the Kenyan taxpayer cannot be made to take such a risk, as the taxpayer cannot afford such a remediation costs. That there is no proven need for nuclear power as Kenya suffers no energy deficit, and in addition, Kenya has geothermal, wind, and solar resources, which offers renewable energy with less risk. That the socio-economic and social impact report was not done by professionals in nuclear energy and radioactive waste management. That in parallel, through a mission or commission, NEMA has failed to respect laws and procedures related to licensing, and the research project was allowed to be implemented in a location that is contrary to the rules and regulations on the requirements related to the environmental impacts. That NEMA is also legitimizing the illegal work of NUPEA by being part of the presentation and the defense of the CESA report. That the county government of Kilifi has failed in its mandate to control toxic industries producing toxic waste by either providing suitable infrastructure, or if the infrastructure is inadequate, to advise against the commissioning of such projects. That the PS of Energy, during a visit to endorse the site, ignored the issues raised by the community and went ahead to rubber stamp NUPEA's decision on the location, signifying the groundbreaking of the project activities in the community despite the concerns posed by the community. That we raised our issues before the relevant institutions and organizations, that is the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, and the Kilifi County government, but were ignored. that the issues raised above are not pending in any court of law or any other legal body. We therefore, your humble petitioners, pray that the Parliament of the Republic of Kenya, through the Senate, urgently consider this an economic, environmental, and moral issue for the country, and that they act with the view of, 1, ordering all responsible state agencies to remove Uyombo from the list of possible sites for a nuclear reactor, ordering NUPEA to immediately explain evidence-based research and the science that led them to choosing Uyombo as their preferred site, ordering the EACC to institute mechanisms to prosecute individual NUPEA officials found culpable of wasting taxpayer funds by recommending Uyombo as their preferred site, ordering NUPEA to stop interfering in the issuance of title deeds to the Uyombo community. Ensuring the freedoms of the residents of Uyombo village and other Kenyans under the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. And your petitioners will ever pray. Dated the 12th day of October, 2023, presented to the Senate by the Senator for Busia County on 30th October, 2023. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. Pursuant to Standing Order 2381, this petition is committed to the Standing Committee on Energy, and the said committee may work jointly with the Standing Committee on Land, Environment, and Natural Resources in preparation of the report. And in terms of Standing Order 2382, the committee is mandated to, within 60 calendar days from the date of reading the prayer, which is today, to respond to the petitioner by way of a report addressed to the petitioner and tabled on the table of this Senate. It is so directed. Next order, clerk.
Order number 5, papers.
The majority leader.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of this Senate today, 15th of November 2023, Mr. Speaker, being the Circle Society's regulatory authority, specified non-deposit taking levy order 2023. Thank you.
The chairperson, Standing Committee on Administration of Committee on the chairperson, Standing Committee on National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of the House the joint report of the consideration of the request for approval by Parliament of the deployment of officers of the National Police Service to the Multinational Security Support MSS mission. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next order, clerk.
Order number 6.
Senator, just hold on, clerk. Senator Sifuna, you very well know at what point a senator ought to rise on a point of order. And this does not present that opportunity. Okay, proceed with the point of clarification.
Mr. Speaker, I wanted to request your indulgence that at this order on papers, since yesterday I was required to table some papers regarding the debate yesterday, that I do it at this particular juncture.
Very well. If you recall, Honorable Senators, the Honorable Senator for Nairobi, Senator Sifuna, met certain allegations, and through some points of order, he was requested to substantiate. He was unable to substantiate immediately and therefore sought time to do so today. I will therefore allow the Honorable Senator to proceed to substantiate pursuant to Standing Order 105-2.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During debate yesterday, I made certain assertions on the floor of the House and requested that you allow me time to table Eliza. Mr. Speaker, I wish to table.
Well, I will, the clerk get seize of these documents. We will look at the authenticity of those documents, and I'll make a ruling as to whether they can be used to substantiate your claims. Yes, Senator.
Mr. Speaker, I believe in your wisdom, but as you're perusing those documents, Mr. Speaker, it should be clear that that evidence that is being tabled there, if there was a donation, where is the evidence that that same consignment moved from where the Minister of Agriculture received it, it went to distribution areas, and it is the same fertilizer that has been given to the people of Kenya as subsidized fertilizer. Mr. Speaker, there is responsibility here. Let us stop politicking with things that deal with food and the lives of our people, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
I will peruse these documents. Senator Sifuna knows the consequences of his actions, and upon perusal of these documents, if indeed they do not substantiate the claim as made yesterday, then the consequences will naturally flow. Thank you. Next order, clerk.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
One, Senator Hamida Kibwana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My statement on 52.1, Standing Order 52.1, is regarding the launch of the time use survey report. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 52.1 to make a statement on a matter of general topic concern regarding the recent release of Kenya's first ever time use survey report. This development is pivotal in the pursuit of gender equality and the acknowledgement of women's contributions to our national economy. The survey provides us with valuable data that highlights the significant yet often invisible contribution that women make to our society and economy through unpaid domestic and care work. The stark gender disparities in the distribution of unpaid care work underscore the urgent need for targeted interventions and policy reforms that support and empower women. The survey was conducted as a joint effort by the Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics, KNBS, the State Department of Gender and Affirmative Action, UN Women, the World Bank, and Oxfam International. The report presents a comprehensive analysis of time use data based on the 2021 Kenya Continuous Household Survey. Mr. Speaker, sir, the findings are both enlightening and concerning.
What is the point of order, Senator Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The distinguished senator is obviously speaking to an opinion poll. And Mr. Speaker, opinion polling in this country is covered by a statute. Mr. Speaker, could she, before she makes us consume of that survey, tell us who the opinion polling agent is and whether the survey they have taken was in accordance with the law? Mr. Speaker, I say this with maximum respect to my colleague, but unfortunately, people are even doing opinion polls on telephone phones, on their phones.
So what is your point? What are you?
Yes, I'm requesting the member to tell us who is the opinion polling company.
Just get me right, Senator
Yes.
Bone. Under what standing order are you basing your point of order?
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, according to standing orders, members of Parliament, 105.
Which standing order? 105.
105.
Okay, proceed now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had made my point. The accuracy of the information she's about to table. Nothing personal, but we want to be sure that we are not consuming what they say in computer palace, garbage in, garbage out.
Senator Amida, what is the accuracy of this statement you're making pursuant to Standing Order 52-1?
Mr. Speaker, I request my colleague, Senator Kalwale, just to give me time because he has not even understood the gist of this statement. I had not even started yet. So I don't see why he would have getting jittery on this one, and yet I had not even started. Kindly give me time, and I will disclose the opinion.
Are you saying that the responses to the accuracy of your statement is in the body of your statement? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, sir, the findings are both enlightening and concerning. The report reveals that on average, women in Kenya spend approximately 5 times more time than men on unpaid domestic and care worker. The inequality not only perpetuates gender inequalities, but also impedes women's empowerment, hindering the ability to engage in productive activities and public life. The invaluable partnership of the National Gender and Equality Commission, GEC, the Council of Governors, COG, and the University of Nairobi, UON, in the survey highlights the collective commitment to addressing the gender disparities embedded in unpaid care worker. As Mr. Speaker, sir, as we delve into the specifics, the survey indicates that on average, women and girls in Kenya over the age of 15 spend 3 hours every day on unpaid domestic and care work. There is a significant time investment that unfortunately it is not adequately accounted for in our national economy. The geographical distribution of the unpaid work reveals additional layers of disparity. Women in Marsabit County, for instance, spend a staggering 7 hours per day on unpaid domestic and care work, nearly double the national average. Similarly, trends are observed in other counties, emphasizing the need of targeting interventions. The implications of this data are profound. The under-recognition of the contributions of women
to the national economy, specifically in the realm of unpaid care work, results in an incomplete representation of our economic activity. This oversight has broader implications, including the perpetuation of the feminization of poverty and a hindrance of the full realization of women's potential in economic and social development. Mr. Speaker, sir, to address these challenges and pave the way for a more equitable future, it is imperative that we not only recognize the disproportionate burden placed on women, but also take concrete steps towards policy development and legislative reforms. The report emphasizes the need of an unpaid care and domestic work policy to legally recognize, reduce, and redistribute the workload. Furthermore, it calls for the development of labor policies that support the integration of unpaid caregivers into the labor force, establishing family-friendly working arrangements and ensuring decent terms and conditions of employment. Mr. Speaker, sir, as senators, we have a critical role to play in championing these policy changes and legislative reforms. The Time News Survey report is a call to action. It is a reminder that we must take decisive and concrete steps to address the gender disparities in unpaid care work and fully recognize and value the contributions of women in our economy and society. By doing so, we will not only be advancing the cause of gender equality and women's empowerment, but we will also be building a more just, equitable, and prosperous Kenya for all of us. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Statements pursuant to Standing Order 53-1. Senator Hamida.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll proceed with my second statement on the mental health unit desks in all institutions in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to request for a statement from the Standing Committee on Health on the establishment of mental health unit desks in all institutions in Kenya. In the statement, the committee should outline initiatives undertaken by the government to establish mental health unit desks in all public and private institutions in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I repeat, in all public and private institutions in Kenya, explaining any coordination with mental health professionals and organizations to provide timely interventions and support. State plans, number 2, by the government to ensure that the mental health unit desks in institutions have adequate resources and qualified personnel to assist in conducting regular awareness campaigns, workshops, and seminars. Number 3, provide information on the budget allocation and funding mechanism in place for the establishment and maintenance of mental health unit desks. And finally, recommend the establishment of a standardized monitoring and evaluation framework to ensure the mental health desks meet their objectives. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator for Kisumu, Senator Professor Tom Ojenda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I have 3 statements. The first statement, Mr. Speaker, sir, is on the provision of agricultural extension services in Kisumu County. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries regarding the provision of agricultural extension services in Kisumu County. In this statement, the committee should, 1, state the extent of provision of agricultural extension services in Nyando, Muhoroni, and Nyakach sub-counties in Kisumu County. 2, state measures put in place to upscale provision of agricultural extension services in the 3 sub-counties. And 4, give a breakdown of how the budgetary allocation by the national government and county government of Kisumu towards the provision of agricultural extension services was utilized for the financial years 2022-2023, and how the funds set aside for the financial years 2023-2024 will be utilized for agricultural extension services in Kisumu County. Mr. Speaker, sir, my second statement is on early childhood development Education or ECD in Kisumu County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education regarding early childhood development education or ECD in Kisumu County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the number of ECD centers in Kisumu County and their respective pupil enrollment. 2, appraise the Senate on the number of teachers deployed by the county government of Kisumu to the ECD centers, their terms of employment, including remuneration and other benefits, and the teacher-pupil ratio. 3, provide a report on the level of national and county government investments in infrastructure development and teacher training in ECD centers, stating the budgetary allocation at both levels of government, disclosing any donor funding for infrastructure development and promotion of quality childcare in the centers for the financial years 2023-2024, and 4, outline any measures put in place by the county government to optimize the teacher-pupil ratio in ECD centers within the county. Mr. Speaker, sir, my last statement is on pending bills accrued by the county government of Kisumu. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the pending bills accrued by the county government of Kisumu. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the amount of pending bills accrued by the county government of Kisumu during the financial years 2013-2014 to 2022-2023, indicating the nature of these bills and the status of their payment to date. 2, state the reasons for non-payment of pending bills by the county government. And 3, state the amount of funds set aside by the county government of Kisumu for the financial years 2023-2024 for the payment of pending bills, stating measures put in place to ensure the prompt clearance of all pending bills accrued by the county government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Statement pursuant to Standing Order 56-1AA. The Chairperson, Standing Committee on Roads, Transport and Housing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am not the chairman of Transport, but I'm a member of that committee, Mr. Speaker. So I'm reading on behalf of the chairman. Mr. Speaker, sir, Standing Order 56-1 provides that a chairperson of a committee may make a statement relating to a matter of which the committee is responsible. Mr. Speaker, sir, pursuant to Standing Order 56-1, I wish to issue a status report on the progress of consideration of the following 6 statements. A. Statement by Senator Crasto Asige, MP, regarding retesting of public service vehicle, PSV, upon expiry of their driving licenses. B. Statement sought by Senator Joseph Kamau, MP, regarding the construction status of the road connecting Lake Kenyatta Primary School to Ziwa Junction, Lamu County. C. Statement sought by Senator Kaduri Murungi, MP, on the progress of the evaluation of tenders and commencement of dwelling works of Meru Town Roads B6/A9 Project Phase 1. D. Supplementary information to a statement on illegal diversion of staff training funds from the accounts of Kenya Maritime Authority. E. Statement by Senator James Kamau Murango, MP, regarding speeding by drivers transporting miraa in parts of Kirinyaga County. And F. Supplementary information to a statement by Senator Beatrice Ogola, MP, regarding death of boda boda riders and their passengers by sugarcane trailers of a local sugar miller, Sukari Industry in Viwa constituency. 1. Statement by Senator Crasto Asige, MP, regarding the testing of public service Transport and Housing regarding retesting of public service vehicle, PSV, upon expiry of their driving licenses. In the statement, the committee was requested to A, explain the justification and criteria for retesting of holders of driving licenses with class endorsement B3, D1, D2, D3, C, C1, CE, and CD upon the expiry of holder licenses and as communication by the National Transport and Safety Authority, NTSA, on 20th June 2023, stating the associated fees. B, state the professional qualification requirements for individuals conducting the retest. C, state whether the proposed biometric licenses are obligatory, specifying which category of drivers would be required to obtain them and the cost associated with obtaining a biometric license, explaining the difference in cost, if any, and D, shed light on the extent to which representatives of long-distance drivers and conductors associated were involved in arriving at a decision by the NTSA to retest drivers holding the said driving licenses. Mr. Speaker, sir, in response to the request by Senator Christo Asig MP, the committee sought and received a response to a statement from the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Road and Transport. At its sitting held on 12th October 2023, the committee considered the response to the statement and observed that the response was unsatisfactory and sought supplementary information. The committee will therefore pursue the supplementary issue raised in the statement to its conclusion. In statement 2, statement sought by Senator Joseph Kamau, MP, regarding the construction status of road connecting Lake Kenyatta Primary School to Uziwa Junction, Lamu County. At a sitting of the Senate held on Wednesday, 31st May 2023, Senator Joseph Kamau, MP, sought a statement regarding the construction status of road connecting Lake Kenyatta Primary School to Uziwa Junction, Lamu County. In the statement, the committee was requested to A, provide details of the tender for upgrade of the road from earthen to concrete, paving blocks, including the date, identifying the contractors who won the award, the amount of funds allocated for the project, and the scope of work to be undertaken. B, clarify whether the Ministry of Roads and Transport is aware that the work was done, but the concrete paving blocks were subsequently removed by the contractor, and if so, state the reason for the same. And C, state the measures in place, if any, by the government to have the road reconstructed to the specifications provided in the tender award, providing the timeline for completion of the project. Mr. Speaker, sir, in response to the request by Senator Joseph Kamau, MP, the committee sought and received a response to the statement from Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Roads and Transport. At its sitting held on 12th October 2023, the committee considered the response to the statement and observed that the response was unsatisfactory and sought supplementary information. The committee will therefore pursue the supplementary issue raised in the statement to conclusion. Statement sought by Senator, the third statement, Mr. Speaker, was the statement sought by Senator Kaduri, MP, on progress of evaluation of tenders and commencement of dwelling works of Meru Road B6/A9 project phase 1. At a sitting of the Senate held on Wednesday, 12th April 2023, Senator Kaduri Murungi, MP, sought a statement regarding the progress in the evaluation of tenders and commencement of dwelling works of Meru Town Road B66/A9 project phase 1. In the statement, the committee was requested to A, appraise the Senate on the status of evaluation of tenders number Kenha 2536/2022 and Kenha 2540/2022 for dwelling consultancy services for construction and supervision of Meru Town Road B66/A9 phase 1 works, noting that the two tenders were closed on 18th March 2022 and 22nd March 2022 respectively. State reason for this delay in completion of evaluation process. And C, state when the dwelling of Meru Town Road B66/A9 project phase 1 will commence, giving the projected date of completion, stating measures, if any, being taken to ensure that the project will be completed within the scheduled timelines and budget. Mr. Speaker, sir, in response to the request sought by Senator Kadhuri Murungi, MP, the committee sought and received response to the statement from the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Roads and Transport. At its sitting held on 12th October 2023, the committee considered the response to the statement and observed that the response was unsatisfactory and sought supplementary information. The committee will therefore pursue the supplementary issue raised in the statement to its conclusion. Mr. Speaker, the supplementary information to a statement on the illegal diversion of staff training funds from the account of the Kenya Maritime Authority. At the sitting of the Senate held on 8th November 2022, Senator Mohamed Faki, MP, made a statement on illegal diversion of staff training funds from the accounts of Kenya Maritime Authority. The committee received a response to the statement from the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs, and considered it on 28 February 2023, where the committee sought the following supplementary information to the statement. A, whether a maritime attaché at the Kenya High Commission in London was appointed. B, copies of documentation used in compliance of Section 43(1) of Public Finance Management Act and Regulation 48(1) of the Public Finance Management National Government Regulation 2015 during the budgetary allocation of funds from the staff training budget vote to the establishment of the Office of Maritime Attaché in London, and C, copies of agreement negotiation of Kenya Maritime Authority, KMA, with shipping lines, ships and classification society that offered free training discounted training cost of KMA employees. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee received a response to the supplementary information sought and considered it on 17th of October 2023. The committee observed that the response was unsatisfactory and resolved to invite the Kenya Maritime Authority on Thursday, 2nd November 2023, to clarify on the issue of staff training. The fifth statement, Mr. Speaker, the statement by Senator James Kamau Murango, MP, regarding speeding by drivers transporting miraa in parts of Kirinyaga. At a sitting of the Senate held on Wednesday, 16th November 2022, Senator James Kamau Murango, MP, requested for a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing regarding speeding by drivers transporting miraa in parts of Kirinyaga. In the statement, the committee was requested to A, appraise the Senate to the extent of compliance to provisions stipulated in the Traffic Act by drivers transporting miraa. B, state the measures put in place, if any, to curb accidents caused by drivers who continue to create havoc on Dindiroko Gathigiriri Preston Road and Vifa, Red Soil, Morufara and Gurubani areas in the county. And C, emulate the action being taken by the government to ensure peaceful coexistence of offenders to curb cases of traffic offenses and accidents. The committee received a response to the statement from the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Roads and Transport, and considered it on Tuesday, 25th April 2023, where the committee resolved and sought the following supplementary information. A, the National Transport and Safety Authority should strictly enforce the Traffic Act on miraa transport drivers who contravene the Act. B, the Ministry of Roads and Transport should engage miraa transporters through their circles and association and develop a sensitization program for compliance of Traffic Act by miraa drivers. And C, the Ministry of Roads and Transport to submit a report to the committee on the implementation of proposed interventions to improve road safety as stated in the response to the statement. Mr. Speaker, sir, in response to the request sought by Senator James Murango, MP, committee sought and received a response to the statement from the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Roads and Transport. At its sitting held on 17th of October 2023, the committee considered the response to the statement and observed that the response was satisfactory and therefore concluded the statement. Mr. Speaker, the last statement was sought by Senator Beatrice Ogola MP regarding the death of boda riders and their passengers by sugarcane trailers of a local sugar miller, Sukari industry in Thiwa constituency. At a sitting of the Senate held on 15th November 2022, Senator Beatrice Ogola MP requested for a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transport and Housing regarding death of boda riders and their passengers by sugarcane trailers of a local sugar miller, Sukari industry in Thiwa constituency. In the statement, the committee was requested to A, explain why cane trailers belonging to the local miller in Thiwa, Sukari industry transport sugarcane at night when visibility is poor, leading to frequent cases of accident, specifically involving boda, their passengers and other pedestrians, noting that local access roads are very narrow and the trailer roads of cane are abnormally big. B, state whether recent cases of accidents involving cane trailers of said company, boda riders and other road users, where approximately 20 people have lost their lives and dozens injured, have been investigated and culprits brought to book. C, caused the sugar miller to clear cane trailer breakdown along the road, prompting noting inordinate delay in clearing broken down cane trailers from the roads continues to pose danger to road users. D, explain whether families of persons who have lost their lives or sustained injuries arising from accidents involving cane trailers and boda have been compensated by sugar millers, where investigation have found the miller culpable. And E, outline plans, if any, by the Kenya National Highway Authority, KENHA, the Kenya Rural Authority, KERA, as well as the county government of Homa Bay, to expand local access roads and repair dilapidated sections, as well as clearly mark the roads with appropriate signage. The committee received a response to the statement from the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Roads and Transport, and considered it on Thursday, 27th April 2023, where the committee resolved and sought the following supplementary information. A, data on the accident that have occurred in Thiwa constituency since 1st December 2022 to 31st March 2023, and indicate the cause of the accident, the roads along which the accident occurred, the owners of vehicles involved in the accident, the fatalities, stroke injuries per accident, and the actions taken as a result of accidents by the NTSA and NPS, and B, whether there are any application and grants made for exemptions of road capacity by sugarcane trailers in Thiwa constituency. Mr. Speaker, sir, in response to the request by Senator Beatrice Ogola MP, the committee sought and received a response to the statement from the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Road and Transport. At a sitting held on 17th of October 2023, the committee considered the response to the statement and found the response to be satisfactory and therefore concluded the statement. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee has noted with concern the high rate of death, over 4,500 per year, arising from increased road accidents in the country, and in such, the committee has scheduled to hold a meeting on 7th of October 2023 with stakeholders involved in roads safety awareness and sensitization, so as to deliberate on actions that should be taken to reduce the number of road accidents. Mr. Speaker, sir, during consideration of response to the above statement, the committee invited the senators who requested for those statements. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for allowing me to read this long statement. Thank you.
Next order, clerk.
Order number 8, motion. Debate on the President's address to Parliament.
Now, honorable senators, at the rise of the House yesterday, Senator Beatrice Ogola had the floor, or this morning, had the floor, and I had a balance of 7 minutes. She's not in. She has to familiarize herself with the standing order because those 7 minutes will go up in the air once I move to the next senator to speak. He's not in the House. Senator Essie. Senator Essie Okenyuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I want to support the motion of the President's address, and as much as I want to note that we've had a share of our own challenges, but it's equally important to note some of the progresses that this administration has made in the first year in office. Mr. Speaker, one of such progresses we've made, farmers across the country were able to receive the subsidized fertilizer, and as a result, we've had actually decreased prices of unga in our supermarket shelves. That's one thing we cannot go without acknowledging from this administration. Mr. Speaker, sir, why should be...
What is the point of order, Senator Sifuna?
Mr. Speaker, under Standing Order 105 on responsibility for statements, I want the senator for the nominated Senator Essie Okenyuri to demonstrate to this House a reduction in the prices of unga to the levels that she's claiming.
And then the senator is referring to the address by the president.
Yes. That's exactly what I'm on about.
It's contained there. He's simply lifting as it's contained in that particular.
Oh, but now she's not the president. She's not the president.
Honorable Senator, the only time you'll be called upon to substantiate is when you yourself make certain allegations. But if you're lifting a statement from a book or from a report, then that burden does not lie on your shoulders. Senator, can you proceed, please?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for guiding the Honorable Senator for Nairobi. Not actually every other thing that you're making reference from deserves rising on a point of order. Mr. Speaker, sir, that said, we come to the issue of the health sector, whereby we saw the community health promoters whom we now have across the country. I had a one-on-one encounter with community health promoters the other time, the Senate Health Committee, in their county tours in Nyamira, Ekerenyo, where we visited in our inspection visits. And I can assure you, even the people at the locality were very happy to see this new development because services were getting closer to them. Unlike initially where they only relied on having to travel all the way to the health facility, they can actually get advice and help at a grassroots level where before they actually seek for specialized support in hospitals. Mr. Speaker, sir, those are one of the best developments we have because a healthy nation is a nation that is able to even work on themselves and get economic status that will actually support them, support their families. Mr. Speaker, this actually is supporting very many women, especially rural women. For the other day, the Senate was in Turkana, and for the senators in the Health Committee who had an opportunity to visit the dispensaries in Turkana County, you can actually concur with me as to why we dearly needed these community health promoters. If women in rural parts of Turkana are not able to access dispensaries because of the distance, why don't we make it easier for them? Because I equally realized they are conservative community and the women would not want to be exposed, especially when they visit these facilities during delivery. So this is a very good way of making services get closer to the people, also accommodating their interests. Those are the discussions we should be having, and I want to commend this address by the President, because as I initially indicated, in as much as we have had a share of our own challenges, partly well known, we got the wells dug deeper. We couldn't continue digging deeper, and we are trying to cover up for some of those mistakes made by the previous regime. And a popular handshake, which was a very bad leadership experiment we've had in this country. Mr. Speaker, allow me to conclude at that bit and say that we keep learning on a daily basis, and urge the members of the opposition side, if they have better engagement on how this administration can actually implement some of these issues. And I always remind members, leadership actually works when we ignore the other issues that divide us, other than come together and agree on what works. Because you're a Kenyan first before you either become Kenya Kwanza or Azimio. So we are Kenyans, and as leaders we need to put our heads together and support the President in steering this administration, because Kenyans spoke and they made a choice. We now have the ball on our side to ensure that whatever choices we made work for the several millions of Kenyans who are relying on us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Ombo.
The Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity to also add my comments to the address by the President. The Speaker, I would seek your guidance first before I make my comments on whether you have ruled on the admissibility of the statements and documents laid by Senator Sifuna to substantiate his claims on the floor, and specifically in relation to the issue of the fertilizer subsidy. Because the Speaker, in my comments, I want to touch on that issue of the fertilizer, but I don't want the wrong impression to be created that I am commenting on a matter that you have not made a ruling on. The Speakers.
The Honourable Senator, if you're keen, I said that I will look at those documents on whether they are admissible or not. That can only be after I've looked at them. And therefore, the first thing I'll have to pronounce myself on is the admissibility of the documents that have been laid there. Once they're admissible, then I'll proceed to the second leap, whether they are sufficient to substantiate the claim that was made yesterday. And if I find that they are not, they're inadmissible, then of course the matter rests right there. So that is a ruling that I'll make first thing tomorrow when we resume the House.
Well guided, the Speaker, so I'll see how to navigate my comments. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I want to say on record that before I joined the Senate in the year 2017, I was a senior editor in this country. And I used to dispatch journalists to cover this very event, the joint address of the President by the President of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, the first question that I would detail my journalists to ask members of Parliament before the address would be, what are your expectations on this statement, on the statement of the President? And after that, then I would debrief them on whether their expectations had been met. The Speaker, now I am seated here as a senator, as a leader in this country. I must confess that going by the trend that I've seen this administration conduct itself in public and the suffering that the people of this country have been subjected to by this administration, I did not have any expectations on that address. And so the Speaker, having made that statement, I would want to inform us that the Speaker, Article 132 of the Constitution, the entirety of that article, places an obligation on the President to address Parliament. In fact, the Speaker, even just a casual reading of that article would demonstrate that the President's address to Parliament is the first obligation, it is the first function assigned to the President. So it cannot be a matter of just ticking boxes, that I have done this, I've done that. It must be an address that, Mr. Speaker, brings change and inspires hope in the nation through the leadership of Parliament. The Speaker, the requirements are very clear and very simple, that the President should address us as representatives of the people of this Republic on the state of the nation. Where are we as a country? He is supposed to address us on the measures that have been put in place by his administration and the progress made in realization of the national values and principles of governance as captured in Article 10 of the Constitution. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, is supposed to address us as representatives of the people on the state of our national security. Are our borders safe? Are we safe in this country? That is what the Constitution requires the President to do. Mr. Speaker, having gone through the address of the President over and over again, I must say I am extremely disappointed. Disappointed, Mr. Speaker, because there are issues glaring at Kenyans today that those who had expectations would have wished that the President addressed this nation on those issues. The Speaker, I will mention only 2 or 3. On the matter of the cost of living, Mr. Speaker, and I said I would find a way of navigating that issue of the fertilizer because you are yet to make a ruling on it. But Mr. Speaker, allow me to say that the mention of this subsidy from 6,500 to 2,500, the Speaker, even if that were to be true, is too little at a time like this to be the only thing that the President of a republic mentions when it comes to addressing the issues of the cost of living. I've said many times, Mr. Speaker, that there are people in this region, Kenyans in this country, who don't use fertilizer to grow crops. People who don't use fertilizer to keep their animals, their poultry. And so, Mr. Speaker, if the only serious matter that the President could speak about on bringing down the cost of living was the issue of the fertilizer, then, Mr. Speaker, it is too little to talk about. I would have said a few other things about it, Mr. Speaker, because I'm waiting your ruling. I will stop there. But I will remind the President and this administration that the cost of living, Mr. Speaker, is such a serious issue in this country that as I comment on the address of the President today, the Speaker, there are millions of Kenyans who are unable to make their ends meet. There are millions of Kenyans who are unable to place a meal on the table for their children. The Speaker, there are millions of students in this country who are confused, Mr. Speaker. We have students in our universities who are unable to even sit exams because there is confusion on the system of education that we are using and the system of funding for university education. These are issues, Mr. Speaker, that should have attracted the attention of the President, should have made, should have gotten a pride of place in the speech of the President. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of inclusivity, as required in Article 10 of the Constitution. And this, Mr. Speaker, I say with a lot of seriousness. A few months ago, we concluded the recruitment of servicemen and women.
What is the point of order, Senator Boni?
Accuracy of speech. Is the Senator of Kitui, in order to mislead the Republic, who might not have followed the President's speech during the joint sitting, that the President did not highlight the important matter of education? Indeed, Mr. Speaker, he did so in bullet 53, 54, 55, and finally, Mr. Speaker, bullets 56, 57, 58, 59, and 60. Is he in order?
Honorable Senator, you've made some allegations to the fact that the President did not mention anything concerning education. And the Senator for Kakamega has drawn your attention to those paragraphs that indeed His Excellency the President took time to explain.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether the Senator for Kakamega has already made his contribution on this matter, but that's fine. The Speaker, because I have my time to make my contribution, if he listened to my opening statements, I said that this is not just an act of ticking boxes and telling people who are starving that you know you are starving. They already know. What I'm talking about is providing solutions to the challenges that face our university education, our secondary education, our system of education, our system of funding of our education system. Those are the things I'm talking about. Not just mentioning that these things are happening, because we already know that there is a problem. We are looking for solutions. The Speaker, on the issue of the inclusivity as required in Article 10 of the Constitution, I was saying that a few months ago there was a recruitment of servicemen and women to join the Kenya Defense Forces. I raised a question on the floor of this House seeking to know why the sub-county called Tharaka in Kitui County had been denied an opportunity to have a recruitment center for the servicemen and women joining the KDF. Mr. Speaker, to date, it has not occurred to the chairman of security, and he's not here, and his members, that was a question, a statement that had timelines, and it needed to be addressed before the recruitment was done, so that we afford our young people an opportunity to present themselves for recruitment. Mr. Speaker, I will be requesting this House, on account of the requirement by law, by the Constitution, that the President must be guided by the principle of inclusivity when it comes to access to opportunities in this country. I will be requesting the Speaker
that we do a proper audit of the recruitment of the KDF, the past recruitment of KDF, so that we establish regional balance. How many young people from each region were accorded the opportunities to be recruited in the KDF? I say this as a speaker because I know this is not an isolated case. I had conversations with my brother, my colleague, my neighbor, the senator for Tana River, and I know he had a similar challenge, where a section of his people were denied an opportunity to present themselves for recruitment. Mr. Speaker, if we allow these things to continue, then what will happen is that at the end of the day, we will have regions of this country that have provided young people to serve in the military, and other regions that are denied that opportunity. The Speaker, on the matter
Senator Wambua,
yes,
the senator from Migori wishes to inform you. Are you amenable?
I'm okay. You can inform me.
Proceed, Senator Eddie.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. The issue that the Senator of Kitui has raised is a very close issue to my heart. The issue around inclusivity, not only in the recruitment of KDF, but also in the general recruitment in the public sector. And I'd like to inform the Senator of Kitui that I actually have two statements that I've forwarded to the relevant committees. One, I did forward to the CS, the Committee on Labor, to scan and give us that proper audit on public service, the entire public service of the country. And yesterday, I also did submit a statement here for the Ministry of Defense to give us exactly how this recruitment were done. On these two statements, when they'll be given in the House, so that we can be able to do that audit with the information that will come from these two ministries. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Senator Eddie. I will indeed take more than passing interest in the response to those statements. And Mr. Speaker, while at that, because I have the floor, Mr. Speaker, we must also find, either administratively or otherwise, a way of getting chairpersons of committees to fast-track responses to statements. Because it doesn't help to respond to a statement 1 year after a statement was sought. The Speaker, I will conclude my remarks on the matter of food prices. And so that Senator Halwale does not accuse me of not reading the statement, I want to take an excerpt from the President's address and ask questions from that excerpt. The Speaker, on paragraph 17, the President says that as a result of these interventions, or the interventions that he had mentioned earlier, today a 2-kilogram packet of maize flour is selling at a low of 145 shillings and a high of 175, depending on the brand, down from 250 shillings. A gorogoro of maize is selling at between 60 and 75 shillings. That is directly lifted from the address of the President. The Speaker, I have taken time and traveled far and wide to validate that very statement by the President. The Speaker, this statement by the President is not true. I was in Vihiga County, Luanda, on Sunday, and I took the pain to go around and ask the people of Luanda whether the price of Gorogoro was retailing at 70 shillings. And all of them said the least that you can get is 90 shillings. But in most cases, it's 100 and 110 shillings. Mr. Speaker, today, I send my people from my office, my staff, paid by the Parliamentary Service Commission, to go around the supermarkets and establish the price of maize flour. And they returned the verdict that the lowest that they found was 149 and the highest was 235 shillings. Mr. Speaker, I know that the President relies on the advice of his technical team to deliver certain speeches. On this one, they have left a lot of egg on the face of the President. They have misled him, and he has miscommunicated to this nation. Mr. Speaker, the matter of food prices in this country, it doesn't know political affiliations. It doesn't matter whether you subscribe to the ideals of the Kenya Kwanza administration or the ideals of the Azimio government in waiting. It doesn't matter. The Speaker, the only thing that matters is that people want to have food on the table. And this government, Mr. Speaker, has done too little to deal with the matter of the cost of living. I am happy, Mr. Speaker, that we have the National Dialogue Committee that is
Senator Sige.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I first of all want to appreciate the fact that the Honorable Senator Wambua indeed can acknowledge that this particular speech made reference to some commitments which were made, and also those commitments have already been achieved to the benefit of the Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, his option to tell us that last Sunday he was in Rwanda and he also went ahead to confirm the prices is not what has been given in the speech is also something that I can say. I come from an agricultural zone where the prices sometimes even are below that which the President quoted in his speech. Mr. Speaker, I must appreciate the fact that we have had challenges, and this is truly acknowledged in the speech by the President, that indeed when we came into office, we had as much challenges as those which were given in the speech and those which were not given. History will never be forgotten as you push towards achieving the plans that you have. And the frankness in the speech by the President, in the commitments which were made, and the achievements which have been made cannot be ignored. We cannot, Mr. Speaker, say that we have achieved 100% of the promises which were made. That one is acknowledged. But where were we and where we are is something that the speech indeed acknowledged in a number of its provisions. One of which, Mr. Speaker, is the cost of living. Honorable Speaker, the President indeed acknowledged in very many paragraphs. Out of this, I can very well recall that paragraph 15 of 102 speech by the President is where he indeed made specific comments on the efforts the government has done. And it's true, he has acknowledged, my colleague has acknowledged the fact that one of the items that the National Dialogue Committee has given itself to discuss and come out with a proposal on how to deal with is the cost of living. And in that particular speech, Mr. Speaker, it is acknowledged that it is not it's not a one-off thing. It's not something that we can just go across in the shops and buy. A cost of living, or the cost of living is a process. It is something that begins somewhere and takes time. And one of the ways within which the cost of living has been addressed by this administration is on the effort that we have been told in the speech about the agriculture sector. The support with which the government has given is not only towards bringing down the cost of maize,
It has gone across. It deals with maize, it deals with milk, where there are efforts to ensure that we add value to the produce from our farmers, and by extension, we will fetch better prices in the market. That same effort is in enlisting the farmers, so that we have a database of who are the people whom we need to reach out to in order to get government support. We acknowledge the fact that not all of us are farmers. Even in this particular house, Mr. Speaker, not all of us can also do the same thing. There are various people with various engagements and commitments where this particular speech acknowledges that those who are in agriculture are supported. Those who are in business are supported. And in this case, there is particular reference to the people in the small sector holdings, where the Hustler Fund, which they have intentionally decided to say it has not helped, is acknowledged. This is an approach that the government made in its campaign to reach out to the small business community. And indeed, the statistics which we were given has confirmed that it is not only the small business people who have borrowed this money, it has gone beyond that. And the second phase of this fund, Mr. Speaker, has equally been alluded to, where instead of reaching out now to the single business entrepreneurs, we've gone to groups where, by extension, we are going to support them by borrowing. This borrowing, Mr. Speaker, touches the business community in two ways. One, by supporting them to enhance their business enterprises, and also the approach which led to the removal of a number of these people from the bureau where they had been listed as non-credit worthy, where somebody is able to borrow a facility. In extension, that particular person will be supporting the business and enhancing his or her credit worthiness. Mr. Speaker, sir, this particular speech gave Kenyans the hope that we gave them in the course of the campaigns, and that particular hope is what keeps us and keeps the Kenyans going in terms of seeing tomorrow and achieving the dreams that they have had. One of the things that we must also not forget, Mr. Speaker, is the independence that this particular administration sought and has indeed provided to independent institutions, one of which was the immediate appointment of the 6 judges. I am a practitioner in the judicial sector, and I know the importance of having to recruit judges and give them their independence. That alone is something that takes justice not to only those who go to court, but to the rest of the Kenyans. Giving an independent management to the judiciary fund, which is enhanced to 3 billion Kenya shillings, is a very important aspect in building the independence of judiciary, enhancing access to justice, and by extension, it is expanding job opportunities, because by this fund, the judiciary has been given more opportunities to employ. This is what we every day cry. Very young Kenyans, very many young Kenyans have gone to school. They are reaching out, seeking for opportunities to be employed. And by this fund alone, we create employment to very many Kenyans. Beyond that, Mr. Speaker, the effort in the housing sector, the affordable housing sector, where we have not more than in the period we've been in office, the Kenyans have been given the opportunity to also not only go and get these houses, but it has been an opportunity to create more employment. A good number of my friends who sit in the minority side, Mr. Speaker, have participated in a number of those sessions where the affordable housing programs are being launched. In this way, it is on the one hand enhancing availability of housing, on the other hand, giving Kenyans the opportunity to get employment and also open up for the business community to supply the materials towards this construction, whether it is the fundis who've been trained or the guys who are owners of various hardware facilities. Mr. Speaker, I want to applaud the efforts that this administration has done, and the speech by the president is one of the very honest speeches where he has alluded to the challenges the administration has gone through and the efforts the administration which he leads is pushing in order to make Kenya a better place. And in this way, Mr. Speaker, Kenya is going to be a better place in the near future. As I end, Mr. Speaker,
one of the most important things which we can't forget is where a number of Kenyans are unable to also sustain their business enterprises because of the debt bracket that this country has done. The commitment by the government and the commitment by the president that there will be a bullet payment of the outstanding amount in advance is a show of the direction the country is headed to. And I am sure where we are able to make this payment by December as committed by the president in his speech, we are going to be opening up this country so that investors can also have confidence to come across, and also the rest of the world where we have, by the way, by a number of the visits that the head of state has made, been opening up Kenya for investments globally. Mr. Speaker, I want to applaud and ask that the effort this administration is doing goes towards making Kenya a better place to live in. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Senator Beth Siengo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I raise to differ, to disagree, and refuse the false promises, false hopes, and the failed expectations of Kenyans that were contained in the presidential address. Mr. Speaker, sir, it saddens my heart to see the President of the Republic of Kenya get to address honorable members of parliament in this country and fail to give Kenyans hope. The expectations that Kenyans have had in this new administration. My expectation as Senator Beth Siengo was for the president, first of all, to apologize to Kenyans for lying to them, for false promises, and making life more difficult for Kenyans to live in this country.
Senator Beth Siengo, kindly take it.
This is a house of record, Mr. Speaker. Irrespective of how you feel, whether you like a person or you cannot use words like lying. It's not parliamentary, Mr. Speaker. And we have already finished 1 year. Some of these things should not be happening, Mr. Speaker. No, you can't say lying. That's not parliamentary, my young daughter.
Senator Mungatana, you've made your point of order. Senator Chirangei, kindly hold your horses. Senator Chirangei. Senator Beth Siengo, this is a house of rules and procedure.
Yes, sir. I know, and I recognize that.
As you make your contribution, kindly be guided by rules and procedure and use parliamentary language.
Mr. Speaker, sir, it is good to follow and to use parliamentary language. But when one makes a promise that has never been fulfilled, what do we call that? Mr. Speaker, sir, when Kenyans...
Senator Beth Siengo, the reason why I'm guiding you is to help you take your point home by using parliamentary language. If you insist, you know exactly what will befall you. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I am guided, but the challenges facing Kenyans are too enormous. The cost of living is unmanageable. The prices of fuel cannot even be imagined. Mr. Speaker, when the President of the Republic of Kenya talks of transforming economy by giving loans and supporting Kenyans to ask for loans where they are expected to repay, this is not a new thing. It has been happening. Kenyans have been living on very difficult conditions of borrowing and repaying those loans. I don't see how it is a new way of transforming the economy. Mr. Speaker, sir, when we talk of giving Kenyans hope, it will start with practical things that the current administration is doing to improve the living standards of Kenyans. Allow me to say that on inclusivity, it also saddens my heart. When this Kenya Kwanza administration was doing their campaigns, they talked of how they would stand by women, support women, appoint more women, ensure more women are elected, ensure that more women are appointed. It is disappointing to see the same women who have been played games on are misused, are struggling, are crying, even to take their children to school, even to place food on the table for their children. Mr. Speaker, sir, as representatives of the people of this great nation of Kenya, we must speak the truth, and we should not stand here to lie to Kenyans how the current administration.
What is a point of order, Senator Chan?
I stand under standing order number 98, 103, and 105. You have directed, unless you will now need to invoke standing order number 121 for disorderly conduct. You have directed that the senator uses parliamentary language, but she continues to use the word lie. And we have been here more than 1 year, Mr. Speaker. I have been offering free lessons to any person like her so that they can understand what you can say in the floor. You can disagree with government, which is okay, and unless there is a problem, because you just kindly use parliamentary language. You can say disagree, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, is it in order to to decline your directions that you have said, let us, all of us, use parliamentary language? Mr. Speaker, respectfully, if she continues with the same, can you invoke standing order number 121 on disorderly conduct, and we allow her to go and enjoy afternoon siesta? I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Betsiengo, I have advised you on what is and what is not parliamentary language.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand guided.
I'm still speaking. You have insisted, despite my guidance, to use parliamentary language. I will therefore proceed to caution you. Secondly, before you proceed, just as a way of helping you, the debate before us, we are debating on a motion on the President's address to Parliament. What you ought to debate here, it is the address made by the President. And I hope you have it before you. It has 1 or 2 bullets. If any of those bullets you're not agreeing with, you point them out. I'm referring to paragraph 100 of the President's address. He said this, I do not agree because of A, B, and C. That's how honorable members debate honorably. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I may change the wording, untruthful statements amounts to not telling the Kenyans the truth. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is good that I stand guided, but sincerely I'm holding the speech in my hand. If I may look at point...
Senator Betsiengo, I'll continue guiding you because I need you to continue contributing as opposed to asking you to withdraw from the chamber. I guided you pretty well that what we are debating now is the address made by the President to Parliament in a joint sitting. An address that you must have a copy before you. Our debate is confined to that address, not to some campaign pledges made in Vihiga. It is a contribution, a debate on what you have before you. Anything else is beyond this motion. So restrict yourself to what is there. Lift out what you think you don't disagree and tell us what you think you do not agree. Lift out what you agree and tell us what you agree. That is the essence of this debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It may be untrue to you, it may be true to others. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When I mentioned on the campaigns, it is just expounding on some points, sir. Thank you for your guidance. As I had indicated, I'm holding a copy of the speech. And when I expound on a point or explaining, because I don't expect honorable members in this House also to support that which is not true. That is my point, sir. Looking at point 1.2, that is 12, where the speech indicates that the leadership has transformed the national political conversation from personalities to issues, from regional or ethnic license to opportunities. Mr. Speaker, my heart is bleeding, because when we are talking of opposition leadership as the alternative government in waiting, we are ready.
Order,
yes.
Order, honorable members. Of course,
we are ready to offer.
Of course, the opposition is a government in waiting. Proceed.
We are ready to offer better leadership, to offer truthful promises, and to deliver to the Kenyans. Because Kenyans want development. Kenyans want to live a life that they will be proud to be Kenyans, but not to feel downtrodden, depressed, crying every day, worrying of what will be the price of fuel tomorrow be. It is unfortunate. From the speech, point number 14, I would say I disagree with this, because there is a lot of wastage by this government. On Monday, we were treated to a spectacular thing, where we saw people flying from one county to another using chartered planes, choppers, where the costs of hiring a chopper ranges between 200 to 300 thousand Kenyan shillings. Yet, there is a Kenyan waiting for their children who have completed class 8, sat for their KCPE, and they don't know where to get school fees from. There are Kenyans who are going to bed hungry. They don't know where to get the next meal from.
What is the point of order, Senator Boni?
Mr. Speaker, Senator Siengo is quite right to laud the wastage in government. But is he in order to do so in total ignorance of the fact that this government has a policy on transport? When a public servant travels...
Under what standing order? Are you giving information or you're raising on a point of order?
I am rising on point of order number 105, Mr. Speaker, to compel... don't be angry.
Senator Eddy.
It is debate. What is the anger
Senator
for?
Boni.
Yeah. My view, if it is wrong, you'll bring yours which is right, isn't it? Mr. Speaker, sir, the government has a policy on transport. And public servants are free to go for other options if they find that policy is not convenient. A public servant moving from Nairobi to a function in the periphery has a public vehicle with a work ticket.
What is your point of order, Senator Bond?
She is misleading the people that we are using state resources to hire choppers when we know that some of our ministers are millionaires. They can afford their own choppers, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Betsengo, proceed to conclude your remarks, please.
Thank you, sir. I'm very sure that Senator Boni Alwale, my good friend, the bullfighter,
proceed to make your remarks, Senator.
knows that I am well educated. When he calls me ignorant, Mr. Speaker, sir, I can't understand which standing order allows him to call me ignorant. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to conclude by saying that I'm also very sure that Senator Boni Alwale knows that the transport policy that the government may have does not allow wastage in the government for public resources. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Senator Aaron Cheriot.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I am elated this afternoon listening to members debate the President's speech for the very first time, an opportunity to many of them critique, agree, disagree. Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by lauding the President on very serious departures from the past. For those that have been on the corridors of Parliament for quite a while, you would know that there are many things that have been the hallmarks of presidential speeches which did not feature or were not granted prominence, Mr. Speaker, on that particular day. And of particular note to me, Mr. Speaker, is a reference to the House of a Parliament as a gathering of duly elected representatives of the people, giving an account of what their government, under the leadership of President William Ruto, has been able to do to the people of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, you will note that in the past years we've always been treated to rants and chants of my government, my government, my government. It is a single act of patriotism when as a leader you appreciate and you know that the position of a president is a position of public trust, that has have considered you, that this is an opportunity through which you can lead and make the lives of the people that elected you better. Second and most important thing, Mr. Speaker, is to celebrate and appreciate the fact that in all the 102 paragraphs that form the part of this particular speech, the President is spot on 100%, Mr. Speaker. And he speaks and gives an account of policies, programs, legislative interventions, in terms of funding and other policies, Mr. Speaker, that have been undertaken in the last 20 months, Mr. Speaker, of trying to make the lives of Kenyan people better. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, this conversation cannot be complete and you cannot have a complete picture. And I know that while Mr. President tried to avoid delving into our past, we know for a fact, Mr. Speaker, that it is the past that informs us of the future. He did not tell the country that he found a tattered economy with only 90 million Kenya shillings in the accounts of Central Bank Kenya, that Kenya was like a baby that had scraped the jaws of a crocodile along River Tana, where Senator Mungatana comes from, Mr. Speaker. That this economy had been battered, had been mismanaged, and things were terribly bad. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I agree with those that have argued before, Mr. Speaker, that in the unfortunate event that this government had gone to the very hands that were managing it before September 2022, we would be worse than Ghana today, Mr. Speaker. We would have been auctioned, we would have been victims, Mr. Speaker.
What is the point of order, Senator Eddy? Senator Eddy, what is the point of order? Senator Eddy, proceed with the point of order, please.
Is Senator Chosi the Speaker?
Niko na wewe leo. Sitatoka hapa.
Use the next one. The next one is working.
Mr. Speaker, I rise under standing order number 101 and 105. Mr. Speaker, you have ruled when a member of the minority side was submitting on this speech, on the content of this speech and restricted senators to the content of this speech. The majority leader is introducing things that the president did not talk about in this speech. Number one. Number two, on the statement of fact, Mr. Speaker, the majority leader is telling the country that when the president took over office, the national coffers had only 90 shillings. No, he said 90 million shillings. Okay? Mr. Speaker, can he substantiate that statement in the House and tell us a country that was running on 90 million with all the public service components of this country going to trillions of money, Mr. Speaker, is he in order to cast aspersion on our whole country to having been that broke, where the president himself was a deputy president, flying with choppers, driving vehicles that cannot sustain themselves even for a month at 90 million, Mr. Speaker? Is he in order?
Majority Leader, you have made allegation to the extent that when His Excellency the President took over the running of the affairs of this country, at that time, the books of this country were reflecting 90 million at hand. You need to substantiate that. You may either do so right away, or you may do that tomorrow.
Mr. Speaker, I thought there is only one speaker in the House. I am struggling to get your instructions because there is a whole battalion of...
Senator Mogeni, if you proceed in the manner you're proceeding, you'll be watching the majority leader at the lounge. So kindly let me steer.
Mr. Speaker, I want to dissuade you from sending Senator Okongo Mogeni out. These are the few instances he's in the country. So allow him, allow him to enjoy the proceedings of the House. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I will provide...
Yes, Senator Mogeni. Senator.
You cannot let my good friend, Senator of Kericho, to get away with that statement. You know, Mr. Speaker, I took over from Senator of Kericho, and I have looked at his records at the commission, vis-a-vis the times he used to be in this house. In fact, my yardstick has always been to ensure that I don't perform as Cheviot did in traveling. So you should be the last person to speak about traveling. In fact, we are working so hard to ensure that we don't do the kind of travels he did. And Mr. Speaker, you know, the people of Nyamira know that I'm a very diligent
What is your point of order,
person. I am challenging Senator Cheruiyot to withdraw that statement he has made, that this is the only time. You heard him say so, that this is the only time I'm in the House. And Mr. Speaker, you can look at the record. I'm always in this House, Mr. Speaker. So that statement by Senator Cheruiyot, who is my friend, is imputing bad motive on my person as Senator of Nyamira, and I'm asking him to withdraw and tender an apology to me, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Cheruiyot, you've made assertion to the fact that the Senator for Nyamira, for the first time, is in the House because he's always out of the country.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to withdraw the word only today, being in the House, but to say that this is one of the rare occasions. Mr. Speaker, it's not as passions because Senator Eddy, you must appreciate that Senator Okongo Mogeni is a constitutional office holder. The works of a commissioner are such busy that sometimes they may involve travel within and without of these borders. Therefore, it is not a wrong thing to say that the commissioner is busy and travels. And when he has an opportunity to be in the House, it's an important time that he be granted an opportunity.
Senator,
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, Mr.
That is
Speaker.
not what you said. Now you're explaining it in a more honorable way.
Yes.
Now proceed to conclude your remarks.
How can I conclude, Mr. Speaker? I have not begun. I have 60 minutes. I will conclude at about 5:30.
Proceed.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to carry on with debate and congratulations to His Excellency the President on a brilliant speech that he gave, an account of the work that his administration has done. Of course, Mr. Speaker, I made remarks to the effect that when His Excellency the President took over this administration, as per the CBK records on the bank balances that were maintained, Mr. Speaker, there was only 90 million
Senator Maruma, what is the point of order, Senator Cheriot?
Okay.
Now, honorable
Speaker,
senators, we need to make progress in this debate.
Yeah,
if
I
you
think
notice, we spend a lot of time on points of order.
Mr. Speaker, I think Senator Cheriot was supposed to substantiate the fact that the coffers had 90 million before.
He was doing exactly that. He was doing exactly that when you rose on a point of order.
How sober?
Senator Eddy, the chair knows exactly what he's doing. You prompt me to do something, I'll throw you out.
I wish Senator Maruma was listening, because that's exactly what I was explaining, that I will provide before this House in the next 24 hours the CBK bank balances of GOK at that particular time. Mr. Speaker, it goes beyond saying that things were so bad at that particular time that billions were being withdrawn via WhatsApp messages, Mr. Speaker. And we have it on authority of the controller of budget, the constitutional office holder that is allowed, Mr. Speaker, to grant withdrawals out of the exchequer, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, it is not wrong, Mr. Speaker, to point out, Mr. Speaker, I don't know if I'll be allowed to.
We need to make progress. Let the majority leader conclude his remarks. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, second thing, Mr. Speaker, is that His Excellency gave an account of programs that have been run by this administration, of course, top of which, Mr. Speaker, featured prominently, is a very successful Hustler Fund initiative, Mr. Speaker, that has lent out billions to ordinary citizens, Mr. Speaker. More than 10 million Kenyans have borrowed. I don't know what are the latest statistics from CBK on bank customers, Mr. Speaker, but if you are to rank the Hustler Fund hand-to-hand, site-to-site with various commercial banks of this country, Mr. Speaker, it will prominently feature among the top 2, if not the top 3. These are ordinary citizens that previously, Mr. Speaker, will not have had ease of access to credit. We have rescued ordinary hustlers, Mr. Speaker, who are borrowing at 300%, Mr. Speaker, to now borrowing at 8%, Mr. Speaker. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I had one of the leaders speak, I think it was Senator Sifuna, because I watched yesterday, celebrating about the default rate. He ought to be ashamed of himself, Mr. Speaker, because he knows that as a leader, he is one of the people who told ordinary citizens to take that money and not pay, without informing them, Mr. Speaker, that us as members of parliament, when we take our 3% mortgage, we make sure that we repay so that we are able, Mr. Speaker, to borrow again. Such bad example from leaders and speeches have inspired many young people to be misled. I celebrate the fact, Mr. Speaker, that I have seen further down the President's speech that an amnesty is being extended to many of these young people. And we have been cited examples of people from across the country, from the coast to northeastern, to the western part of the country, Mr. Speaker. People who have borrowed in excess of 1,000 times and saved many times and are able now to transact and do business, Mr. Speaker, courtesy of this revolutionary product, Mr. Speaker. I wish, Mr. Speaker, to urge and insist on the President, Mr. Speaker, to continue investing in that particular product and even double the amount which ordinary citizens can borrow, Mr. Speaker. I am aware, Mr. Speaker, because I represent the government side in this House, Mr. Speaker, that on the 30th of this month, such a product is going to be launched. And to the ordinary people that are continuing to borrow and are partaking of this particular product, Mr. Speaker, their life is increasingly getting better. Mr. Speaker, at a default rate of 73% for a GOK product, that is extremely successful. People need to compare what are the default rates, Mr. Speaker, of other government and economic stimulus programs that have been run before. People used to take money and disappear. But at least on this particular product, Mr. Speaker, at 73%, and I know it's going to increase and it will get better, because there are people who disappeared with 500, Mr. Speaker, but at the end of this month, when they see what is going to happen to those that have been diligent, those have borrowed and repaid and borrowed and repaid, many of them are going to be diligent enough and return to this particular product, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of our campaign promises which the President spoke very prominently about in this particular speech is a fertilizer subsidy program, Mr. Speaker. That because of that specific intervention, we have added more than 200,000 bags of maize, Mr. Speaker, into the economy. That's why, and it is an irrefutable fact, Mr. Speaker, that today, if you walk into any supermarket in this country, you will buy a packet of funga for anywhere between 145 to 180 Kenya shillings. You know very well, Mr. Speaker, that the obtaining price at the time this administration came into office, Mr. Speaker, was in excess of 200 Kenya shillings. That is what we are speaking about, the ability to bring down the cost of living, Mr. Speaker, that ordinary citizens are able to see, Mr. Speaker, that because of us subsidizing production, as opposed to the lopsided economies that was being run by the cartels who were in charge previously, Mr. Speaker, where you're subsidizing consumption, only benefiting the millers and the big boys of this town who are running big corporations and big farms, Mr. Speaker. The person that we have subsidized and made sure that they are able to produce cheaply and competitively is a farmer of the Republic of Kenya. If you grow across this republic, from every corner, Mr. Speaker, they have been recipient of this particular program. And I am aware, Mr. Speaker, that even as we go into this financial year, that program shall be made better. Mr. Speaker, part of the reason why I celebrate this particular program, Mr. Speaker, is that I know that before the coming into place of this particular administration, previous administration had tried to register the farmers of this country, Mr. Speaker. And they were being given bills of running into billions of shillings, that this is the amount that is going to take to register farmers, find out the size of land that they have in this particular republic. But courtesy of the ingenuity of this administration, Mr. Speaker, using the provincial administration and asking our chiefs and ACCs to go out to the farmlands and register our farmers, this project was done, Mr. Speaker, at near zero expenses to the GOK. And more than 5 million farmers of this country, Mr. Speaker, have been registered. We are now able to tell, Mr. Speaker, what is the size of land under their cultivation, what they are cultivating, how much fertilizer they need, Mr. Speaker. Making policy decision that is driven by data is a key to the successful implementation of any manifesto, Mr. Speaker. And I laud the President for leading that particular effort, Mr. Speaker, because I know with such interventions, Mr. Speaker, the farmers of Kenya can only get better. It is my hope and aspiration, Mr. Speaker, that this program shall be extended to all the crops and not just maize farmers that are doing this under the subsistence farming, Mr. Speaker. I believe that as they model this particular program, they'll make it in a better way, that it shall be crop specific, so that tea farmers are able to benefit enormously from this program, sugarcane farmers, Mr. Speaker, coffee farmers, Mr. Speaker, and so on and so forth. Mr. Speaker, of course, I know for a fact, and this is something that we need to check as a House, Mr. Speaker, is to ensure that our farmers access this subsidy fertilizer at the nearest point, Mr. Speaker. I know, because this was the initial test run, Mr. Speaker, many of them had to travel long distances to go and pick a bag or two of fertilizer, Mr. Speaker. It is my hope, Mr. Speaker, that the Ministry of Agriculture can team up with our agrovets, at least in every village, Mr. Speaker, that I know in this republic, that has a farming population. There is an aggravate. And in these aggravates, Mr. Speaker, they can link up together with our Ministry of Agriculture so that a farmer walks to the center closest to their home and picks up this subsidized fertilizer, go and till their land and produce cheaply, Mr. Speaker. Of course, Mr. Speaker, we know for a fact that despite the fact that the government has worked extremely hard to bring down the cost of inflation from a high of 9.8 last September to now downwards of 6, and it can even get better, Mr. Speaker, as we continue to produce and tap in onto the long-range seasons that we are having, Mr. Speaker. There is need to invest further in post-harvest handling, Mr. Speaker, because we know many of our farmers continue to lose almost 20 to 30% of their products, Mr. Speaker, because of post-harvest losses, Mr. Speaker. It is my sincere hope that with the assurance that was given by the head of state in his presidential speech, that this is being addressed, and he alluded to the fact that on the day that he was speaking before Parliament, the first batch of large-scale and small-scale dryers for maize farmers, Mr. Speaker, and wheat and rice, Mr. Speaker, was docking in the port of Mombasa, Mr. Speaker, that the same can be cleared quickly and get into the farms and help our farmers so that they do not lose even a single bag of the crop that they have produced and sent to us, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know the President is speaking to the values and the aspirations and the challenges that we continue to have as a country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, corruption is a challenge that we continue to face, Mr. Speaker. And the question that we must ask ourselves is, we have set up EACC for almost 10 or even more years, thanks to the new constitution, Mr. Speaker. But 2 administrations down the line, this being the 3rd, we continue to see an increase, Mr. Speaker, in corrupt practices in our public offices, in private sector, Mr. Speaker. We must begin to ask very difficult questions of ourselves as the people of Kenya. Whether is the issue just about the institutions that because many times if you listen to Kenyans, they want to tell you EACC needs to do this, DCI should do the other, but without addressing this particular challenge of corruption from a values problem. Mr. Speaker, we must begin to teach our children right from school and even to us that are in leadership, Mr. Speaker, about the values that we expose, the values that we expect to see in other people, Mr. Speaker, whether the same can be replicated. Mr. Speaker, I see members do, even us here in Parliament, there are many things that members do ignorantly. And they think that perhaps that is not an act of corruption. But if checked under the prism of values, Mr. Speaker, Chapter 10 of our Constitution, you are actually not living up to the expectation of this Constitution. How many times, Mr. Speaker, for example, do you see members, particularly on Wednesday morning, Mr. Speaker, and I don't want to say which side of the House is fond of doing this, walk in, sign, and leave without making any contribution or even sitting to listen to the proceedings of the House, so that the House just captures and records that you are part and parcel. You are cheating the system, Mr. Speaker, but is that a reflection of the values that have been exposed under Article 10, Mr. Speaker? You ought to do better as a leader, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Eddy, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, your chair had ruled on 101, Mr. Speaker, on parliamentary language here. And a member of the minority side was gagged for using the term, President is lying and the members of the majority are lying. What is so different in the using the word lying and throwing aspersion on the members of Parliament and saying they're cheating, Mr. Speaker? Is the majority leader in order to throw these aspersions and further use non-parliamentary language by indicating that there are members of this House who are cheating the system, Mr. Speaker? Is it in order?
Majority Leader, I want to urge you to restrain yourself from the language and use the parliamentary language.
You need to listen to what I said. I didn't say members are cheating. Cheating the system is completely different from you lying or cheating. Mr. Speaker, cheating the system is when a gadget or a particular system get the impression that you have done something which you haven't. When you log into this system, It assumes that you have sat through the sittings and you will be marked as having been present. That is what is called in simple English, Senator Eddie, cheating a system. It's not the same with cheating. It's basic English, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader, proceed.
Yes.
And restrain yourself on the language that you're using. Make sure you...
No, what I need to restrain myself is a kind of English that I use, Mr. Speaker. Perhaps it will find better favor, Mr. Speaker, if I spoke in a simple language which everybody will appreciate and say that I haven't misled or insulted anybody, Mr. Speaker, because it is my plain understanding. Rarely do I lose my cool or speak things ill of others. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I was gracious enough not to mention who normally does these kind of things, yet the whole House knows, Mr. Speaker. So allow me to perhaps proceed, Mr. Speaker, without having to respond to... Mr. Speaker, what you need to protect me from Senator Eddie, because otherwise I'll easily be distracted. Mr. Speaker, I will continue to speak on a very important topic that the President touched, about the transformation that is happening in our economy. Mr. Speaker, it is a fact that cannot be disputed that our debt to GDP ratio is at an all-time high. That as we speak today, at 71% debt exposure, it simply means, Mr. Speaker, that for every 100 shillings that you are collecting, only 29 is left for counties to pay salaries, to do development. Mr. Speaker, it is a fact that not even a magician can work any miracle when you are handed over such an economy. But the question that we need to ask ourselves is, what has the President, what has this administration done? And I agree with him when he reports that this country is on a path of transformation, because the first and the simple basic thing that he has done is to reduce on our fiscal deficit from an upwards of 8 to 9% to 5.4 in this current financial year, Mr. Speaker. And I know for a fact, Mr. Speaker, that there is even a further supplementary budget which our colleagues in the other House are likely to debate tomorrow, that is lowering that fiscal deficit, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that, one, we live within our means. That, two, Mr. Speaker, we are responsible in our borrowing. That, three, and most importantly, we tell Kenyans the truth that for a long time, Mr. Speaker, we have lived a lie. Mr. Speaker, we are behaving like university or college students that I used to see in our university days, Mr. Speaker, where when they get help money, they want to buy all the flashiest of clothes, they want to buy the nicest of shoes, Mr. Speaker. Then eventually when they arrive at the university, they cannot even afford food, and they are left begging, Mr. Speaker. That is a kind of economy that we have been running for so many years. That's why, Mr. Speaker, when we say that we must tighten our belt, that we must teach our people that you cannot enjoy better services, Mr. Speaker, without having to pay a share of it, it is the truth and nothing can be done about it, Mr. Speaker. I know people, Mr. Speaker, want to play popular, want to play populist politics, Mr. Speaker, on this particular issue of taxation. But we have to be realistic and tell ourselves what are the options that are left with us as a country. Default is not an option. There is no responsible administration that is going to default on its debts, Mr. Speaker, and look straight into the eye of its citizens and say, because we did not want to make you feel the burden, allow us to default, Mr. Speaker. We know what has happened to countries that have defaulted, Mr. Speaker. Things will get even worse. But the President is simply telling the country that let me be a responsible father and tell you the hard facts that between you as the adult population today in the Republic of Kenya and the future generations, that is our children, our young people that are in schools, feeling the pain of a country that has been ravaged by debt, Mr. Speaker, we'd rather feel the pinch as a parent generation, Mr. Speaker, so that our children can inherit a sound economy, a country that is thriving, Mr. Speaker, a better nation than what was handed over to us, Mr. Speaker. And I agree with the President on that particular decision. Many a times, Mr. Speaker, people debate, people speak about these particular things. Oh, there's too much taxation, cost of living is too high. There is no assumption, Mr. Speaker. I know each and every part of the country is complaining about this particular issue. But the difference between us and our critics, Mr. Speaker, is that we are honest with our people, telling them that this is a cause, this is the reason why we are facing this particular situation, but there is hope in the hinterland, Mr. Speaker, that the things that we are doing today are for a better 2024, a better 2025, and an even more prosperous 2030s, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, If we decided to run a subsidized economy like our colleagues were doing, Mr. Speaker, you will know for a fact that despite the fact, Mr. Speaker, that many people are speaking about the challenges in the fuel sector, for example, you know, Mr. Speaker, that at the time of the coming in of this administration, thanks to the fuel subsidy program that was being run, this present financial year, Mr. Speaker, as we speak today, we are clearing a debt of close to 80 billion Kenya shillings, paying for previous fuel that Kenyans consumed, was not paid for, Mr. Speaker, but it passed and parcel of the bills that we are living today. Up to how long, Mr. Speaker?
Senator Aaron, do you want to be informed by Senator Eddie?
Until, first of all, he learns, Mr. Speaker, how to seek, Mr. Speaker, the attention of the Speaker. That is, you know, Mr. Speaker, in this house you graduate and learn. If he has not known how to use the gadgets, Mr. Speaker, and is using the mouth instead, does he really merit to inform a majority leader, Mr. Speaker?
He has done it. He's done
no,
it.
No, Mr. Speaker, let me help you.
There's an intervention.
How you get the intervention of the Speaker is that you press and you wait. You don't shout, Mr. Speaker. That is a lesson that I want to pass on to Senator Eddie.
It's been rejected. Proceed, Senator Aaron.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't mind being informed by Senator Eddie now that he has learned, so long as he promised, as Mr. Speaker, not to be shouting at the Speaker, Mr. Speaker. But at the next opportunity, he must commit before informing me, Mr. Speaker, that he has learned the lesson of how to seek the attention of the Speaker.
So, proceed to inform Senator Eddie.
You know, majority, and I want to call you a very special name, majority, not even senator. You have talked about a very patent issue on the issue of taxation. And I do agree with you to some extent that we must indeed raise some capital to be able to help our country to deal with the issue of debt. But it can't be that we are going towards over-taxation. Because what I need to inform you about is that when you raise the taxes to the extent that we have seen them raised in the past few months, majority, even whether you like it or not, businesses have to make a business decision. Are you aware that 30% of our business today that the president found have now made decisions to close their businesses, including Saracen, that is one of the biggest marketing agencies in the country, have decided to close borders and open offices in other countries so that they can avoid high taxation. The consequence, therefore, becomes that other means of seeking for this revenue befalls the president. And that is why the president now is forced to start looking for resources in other places like ID cards, death certificates, and other things that cannot raise revenue. So high taxation is what we're talking about, and I want to urge you, majority, that let us think about moderate taxation and not this high taxation that is killing business in this country. No, this is a point of information.
Speaker, that one should be declared a point of misinformation, Mr. Speaker, because the things that Eddie is saying are completely, Mr. Speaker, the opposite of things as they know. He needs to check the records of how many new businesses have registered this new financial year alone, Mr. Speaker, because, Mr. Speaker, people can see the transformational path and the journey that Kenya is on. I can tell you for a fact that I know more than 100 businesses that have since set up shop in this country. They wouldn't be reporting. Don't be lied to, Senator Eddie, by many of these fake news reports that you read in our newspapers about countries moving here and the other country. There is no business that comes to do charity in Kenya. They are here because they know this is East Africa's largest economy. The opportunity to make profit here is better than in any other East African country. So nobody should sit here and pretend as if they were doing any charity in Kenya. They are here to make money. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I laud the policies that have been made. Finally, Mr. Speaker, on this particular issue of taxation, is that Senator Eddie and his team and those that think like him need to read and understand that Kenya's tax to GDP ratio stands at a paltry 17%. If you compare with our peers, countries that you want to compete with, South Africa and Egypt and Nigeria, they are way higher, upwards of 20%, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we cannot be competing with economies that are not in our region, Mr. Speaker. Smaller economies that are doing less than $50 billion GDP, Mr. Speaker. If we are aspiring to be a stronger economy, if we are aspiring, Mr. Speaker, to be a middle-income nation by 2030 as exposed in Vision 2030, Mr. Speaker, then this is the right path that we have to accept, Mr. Speaker, that there will be temporary pain, Mr. Speaker, for permanent pleasure in the future, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I agree with the decision and the taxation policies that have been proposed to the particular country. In fact, even on this controversial issue of the ID, Senator Eddy, do you know that the 100 shillings that you are talking about has been in existence, I don't know, since 19 what? I took my ID more than 20 years ago. Mr. Speaker. I paid 100. Is it the argument of those that are saying government should not review whatsoever that 100 shillings, Mr. Speaker, that even the factors of production alone can inform? It may not be the 2,000 shillings, Mr. Speaker, that is being proposed, but at least, Mr. Speaker, we must agree that I don't expect a president that I elected into office, President William Ruto, to go to China to beg for money to come and print IDs for my children if I can pay for the same, Mr. Speaker, and so on and so forth on many others, Mr. Speaker. There must be a review, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, finally, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge our colleagues from the minority side that even as you critique government, please offer alternatives. Let us hear your ideas. You are not strangers. You are not new to this country. We have seen you before in office. We know how you operated during the dreaded dark days of the handshake, for example, Mr. Speaker, and the things that used to happen to many people, including members of this House, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, if you disagree, Mr. Speaker, with the policies that are being proposed, be it on financial inclusion, be it on taxation, Mr. Speaker, be it on the subsidy programs that are being run, Mr. Speaker, please offer an alternative. If you have a better idea, Mr. Speaker, we are willing to listen. We will be convinced by the strength of the argument that you carry, not the loudness of your noise, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to laud the President for a speech. Mr. Speaker, I should have been at the time because of all the interruptions of Senator Omogeni, Senator Eddy, but in the interest of time, Mr. Speaker, allow me to, yes, I don't mind being informed by Senator Crystal Asige, Mr. Speaker.
Unfortunately, Crystal has not sought for the Senator Asige. Senator Asige,
I have the mic. Thank you, Speaker. I just wanted to thank, even as a majority leader concludes his submission, thank him for the parts of his contribution that, well, let me just leave it there, for his contribution. And the information that I would like to give him, and of course to the House, is that he's very well aware that solutions are being offered by many members of Parliament across board from both houses. Even I personally have gotten in touch with the good majority leader, asking for audience, seeking audience with him to discuss matters, especially of persons with disabilities, of youth, of women, so that he can listen on a one-on-one basis. Not just back and forth here on the floor of the House, everyone is busy and everyone is walking out, in and out. I wanted his unequivocal attention so that he can hear the issues of persons with disabilities, which is the mandated group, or special interest group that I have been put here to represent. And unfortunately, 1 year on, we have not met. I know he's a very busy man. I understand. Sky team folk, of course, are very busy. But those of us on ground are waiting for his feet to be planted here where we are, so that he can hear our very, very elaborate suggestions on how the government, through the executive, can improve the lives of persons with disabilities, youth, and women.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am guided. Mr. Speaker, I was to attend the launch of Senator Crystal Asige's album launch, but I sent Senator Cherargei instead to represent me, and I have seen his videos dancing and ably responding to the positive vibes. I want to assure my good friend Senator Asige that now that I have concluded my remarks, I will move over to sit next to her and grant her 1 hour, if she has the time, 2 hours, or even the entire evening, Mr. Speaker, to listen to the proposals that she's making.
Senator Oburu Oginga.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I want to add my voice to the views given by my fellow senators on the speech by His Excellency, the President William Samoei Ruto, to both houses of Senate and National Assembly. And Mr. Speaker, from the very onset, I want to say that I was not very happy. Mr. Speaker, I was not very happy because I did not get what I wanted to get from the President. Mr. Speaker, I expected the President to address the issue which the majority leader is saying should not bother us, which is the cost of living. Mr. Speaker, the cost of living is a very, very emotive issue in our country today, and it is an issue which we cannot wish away. Whether we like it or not, it is an issue which must be addressed squarely, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the President talked about national values. The national values which is talked about, I think should be done in a practical way, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the records or the happenings, Mr. Speaker, you recall not very long ago, when our people were going for demonstrations, and they were going for demonstrations using the nationally provided or provisions in the Constitution of the right of Kenyans to demonstrate, to picket, and to hold public rallies. Mr. Speaker, the police came out to, first of all, demand that we get permission.
Senator Oburu, what is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I hope I'm not going to be unnecessarily disrupted by
your time will be frozen. Your time will be frozen. You will not
well, whom I respect very much, but
Senator Boni.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise on standing order number 105 to challenge the Senator of Siaya, who is my good neighbor back home in Luanda Doho and Luanda Dudi, to retract his statement that the President disappointed him because he never mentioned the cost of living. Mr. Speaker, is in order, knowing that in bullet 15, bullet 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, the President was talking about, and more specifically, Mr. Speaker, sir, the President told the country that he has established 22 new fish landing sites in the counties of the Lake region and the coast. Is he in order, Mr. Speaker? And went further to say that he has established management units and cooperatives and hatcheries, especially, Mr. Speaker, a hatchery at Kabonyo and Shimoni. Is he in order to mislead the public?
Senator Oburu,
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm asking my brother, Honorable Halwale, to be patient with me so that I can finish what I'm saying. Mr. Speaker, I did not say that he did not mention about the cost of living. What I'm saying is that he did not offer any solutions, which in my view, in Halwale's views, he offered them. In my own view, he did not. In my own view, he did not at all, Mr. Speaker, because those things he's talking about, like those beaches, the what, you know, Mr. Speaker, you don't transform abyss management unit into a cooperative and you say you have helped the people. Those are management units which are meant to regulate the fishing.
Senator Oburu, there is a point of order, and please bear attention to the chair.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know why these people
proceed.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm standing under standing order number 98. I am standing under order standing number 98. Mr. Speaker,
98. Mr. Speaker, you had given direction, and I want to say you need to use your powers of Standing Order 121, because you have clearly directed that let us restrict over and again our argument, our reasoning, our presentation within the confines of the State of the Nation address by the President. Mr. Speaker, I want to request even the table office to provide for free both soft and hard copy to members so that they can restrict. Mr. Speaker, is it in order for Senator Oburu Odinga, the youth leader, to mislead the House and defy your ruling? Mr. Speaker, I request that you kick in Standing Order number 121 for disorderly conduct and be thrown out, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Oburu, and listen to the chair, Senator Oburu. Now, earlier on you were in the House when the chair made a ruling to the effect that our debate should be confined to the speech by the President. I know in the course of your contribution, you might say comments outside the speech, but I would like you to make sure that it's within the spirit of the speech by the President and also be parliamentary language. Proceed, Senator Oburu.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm trying to do my best to confine myself within the speech. But, Mr. Speaker, these people on the other side are not being patient at all. Mr. Speaker, they are not being patient, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, because, okay, Honorable Cherargei, please be patient. The Honorable... okay, I withdraw that. I've said Honorable Cherargei. Honorable Cherargei, please listen. I'm restricting myself to what the President said. The President talked about national values. And when he talked about national values, I'm relating it to what happened to us in relation to national values. His own officers are not keeping national values. They send police to kill people when they are exercising their democratic rights. And Mr. Speaker, that, yes, and that's, Mr. Speaker, that's what I'm saying. Mr. Speaker, secondly, the President said when one of his achievements was to pay the judiciary 3 billion shillings when he took over.
Senator Mandago.
Mr. Speaker.
You have not sought for Senator Oburu,
yeah.
Just take your seat.
Honorable Speaker, I would not have wished to interrupt Senior, and Senior knows I have a lot of tremendous respect for him. But as per Standing Order 105, Honorable Speaker, is it in order for him, for Senator Oburu to say the government sent the police to kill people? Is it in order, Mr. Speaker? And if that is so, can he provide evidence of a command, Honorable Speaker?
Senator Oburu, your statement, Senator Oburu.
That people were killed by police.
Senator Oburu, it's good to listen to the chair. I wanted to invite you to also make comments as to whether the government sent police indeed, if that is what you meant.
Mr. Speaker, can you repeat?
To kill people.
Huh? That is obvious. If the government...
Can Senator Oburu be heard in silence? Senator Osotsi,
yeah,
you are not on the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have stated that in fact, Mr. Speaker, if you heard the IG, he specifically said that the opposition had hired dead bodies from the mortuaries and displayed them as dead bodies. Mr. Speaker, that was a very serious statement. But Mr. Speaker, let me go to the next point. Mr. Speaker, I also did not take very kindly one of the achievements in the speech where the President stated that 3 billion shillings was paid to the judiciary. Mr. Speaker, I don't know, it would have been paid in good faith, but my take is that perhaps it was a thank you for
the rulings which they made during the petitions. Mr. Speaker, the President also spoke about fairness.
Senator Oburu, order. Proceed, Geraldine.
Mr. Speaker, standing on, can I invite, is the President in bullets number 11 said he appointed 6 judges and enhanced allocation to judiciary by 3 billion. There is nowhere that the President saying he was paying 3 billion. Is this, and it is a black and white, Mr. Speaker. Is he alleging that judiciary has been bribed by the executive, Mr. Speaker? He should withdraw and apologize not only to Kenyans but to judiciary. Budget by maybe 10 billion. Why is Senator Oburu hell-bent to mislead the House? Is it to score quick political gains, Mr. Speaker?
Senator Oburu, before I give you the mic, I also want to bring to your attention the provisions of Standing Order 101. And I'll read, because this is serious. Neither the personal conduct of the President, nor the conduct of the Speaker, or of any judge, nor the judicial conduct of any other person performing judicial functions, nor any conduct of the head of state or government, or the representative in Kenya or any friendly country, or the conduct of the holder of an office whose removal from such office is independent upon a decision of the Senate shall be reverted to adversely except upon a specific substantive motion. I direct you, Senator Oburu, to withdraw the reference to the payment to the judiciary and proceed to conclude on your contributions.
Mr. Speaker, sir,
Senator Eddy, you are a very poor learner. You have previously been informed as to how you get the attention of the Speaker. I have not. Senator Oburu, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I think, Mr. Speaker, you have ruled that I should stick to discussing the speech by the President. Mr. Speaker, this particular clause of paying 3 billion shillings was by the President, Mr. Speaker. Am I discussing the person of the President, or I'm discussing the speech of the President?
Senator Oburu, it was not a payment to judiciary.
No,
it is
he said his government paid 3 billion shillings. The government paid 3 billion shillings. Not him personally, but the government paid it. So, no, not the President. It is in his speech that the government gave 3 billion shillings.
Senator Oburu, Senator Eddy is on a point of order. Proceed, Senator Eddy.
Mr. Speaker, I am on point of order number 1, actually. Yes. Mr. Speaker, I'm on point of order number 1. I mean, standing on number 1, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have been here the entire of this afternoon. And the substantive Speaker, noticing that sometimes there are frivolous point of orders being raised in this House, Mr. Speaker, made a judgment that sometimes let a senator proceed to conclude, Mr. Speaker. I mean, the kind of ranking and respect that I give to the majority leader is stature, the position he holds in this House, the leadership that he holds in this House. You know, when he was speaking, it could not be interfered with frivolous point of orders. And I agree with it. But in the same manner, Mr. Speaker, Senator ODINGA, Mr. Speaker, is a serious ranking member of this House, Mr. Speaker. But I find it, Mr. Speaker, can I be on silence?
Allow Senator Eddy to be heard.
I find it, Mr. Speaker, grossly out of order.
Please.
I find it grossly out of order, Mr. Speaker, when every single opinion that the senator expresses on this particular speech, Mr. Speaker, is going to be interrupted by frivolous point of orders from the other side, Mr. Speaker. I beseech you, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the ranking member,
conclude, Senator
let him finish.
And take your seat. Take your seat. Your
Yes.
point of order is taken.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, the members, Senator Cherargei, Senator Chimera, and Majority Leader, allow Senator Oburu to conclude on his debate. Proceed, Senator Oburu.
Now, Mr. Speaker, I move to the next point.
Order members, order members. Senator Boni, order please.
Mr. Speaker, I move to the next point which I want to make. Mr. Speaker, this is on taxation. Mr. Speaker, the burden of taxation is too high. And the President, who is my colleague, former colleague, knows very well that when we came into government together with him in 2002, personally I was not there, but I came in 1990. He adopted a policy. And I want Honorable the Majority Leader to listen to this, because he's saying we offer constructive recommendations. Mr. Speaker, the policy of taxation must be taken very seriously. Mr. Speaker, the policy which we adopted, and I believe it is the one which we should use now, was that we lower the levels of taxation, but we expand the tax base. And then we close all the loopholes for corruption, all the loopholes for leakages. Then once you do that, Mr. Speaker, the revenue will go up. Introducing those taxes are not Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, within less than 2 years, the revenue was 480 billion, and the economy was growing negatively when Moi left. But within less than 2 years, Mr. Speaker, the revenue had shot up from that to 1 trillion shillings, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we were not complaining that the previous regime had done this, they had done this, they had done their mess, but that was not our concern. Our concern was how to revive the economy, what we should do to revive the economy. And we did it. So, Mr. Speaker, I want the government to take this matter seriously. Just don't complain, but let us find a way. Let us find a way of help. You find people ransacking your luggage because you have bought something which is more than this, something more than this. We want to introduce the old systems, Mr. Speaker, which even jailed people for foreign currency. For a small amount of money, Honorable Warukanja was jailed for coming without declaring $100 for 1 full year. Mr. Speaker, that is one issue which I think we should for Forex. Mr. Speaker, Forex is a very, very good indicator of how the economy is performing. And Mr. Speaker, when we say that we cannot reduce the cost of fuel.
Senator Boni, what's your point of order?
It is true we are on the President's speech. It's true it is difficult for the Senator of Siaya to differentiate between talking about the conduct of the President and speaking to his speech. We can give that to him. But when he says what judges of the Court of Appeal,
I did say
Mr.
that.
Speaker, and you directed that he should withdraw that remark. It is important for the integrity of this Senate that that remark is withdrawn from Hansard. So the next time, the judges of the High Court, who include Migori, for information, Justice Ouko, who was the president of the Court of Appeal, you cannot suggest that even if we don't like the president, our judges were bought. Let him
retract that particular response, and then we go ahead.
Point taken, Senator.
Mr. Speaker, even though I didn't say exactly those words Honorable Alwale is saying, if he thinks I said the president paid that money, which I didn't say that, but if that's the word you don't like, then I withdraw it. Okay. 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 Mr. Speaker, foreign, I know you want the master to hear you. So, Mr. Speaker, the Forex is a very, very good indicator of the performance of the economy. And Mr. Speaker, sir, when this regime took power, the shilling was at 120 US dollars. And Mr. Speaker, sir, the dollar now has gone to 150, and it is weakening. Our shilling is weakening against our neighboring currencies, Mr. Speaker, not just against the dollar. And Mr. Speaker, we are saying that there is nothing we can do, that our hands are tied, and that whatever is happening here is happening because of the international economic situation. Mr. It's not true. This is because, why is it
I need your guidance and your indulgence under Standing Order number 1, Standing Order number 98. Mr. Speaker, an interpretation of Standing Order 121. Senator Eddy, Mr. Speaker, and I don't want to appear it on record, has insinuated that all of us who have raised point of orders are frivolous. Yet that power to rule whether they are frivolous or not is the power that as a Speaker you have it. It is in order, Mr. Speaker, to request that Senator Eddy's statement to say point of orders that have been raised by members are frivolous be struck out of the answered, so that our record and for the future of the answered and the tradition of the House can be respected, Mr. Speaker. The way, and I want to thank Senator it is not within its purview, as per the tradition and the jurisprudence of this House, for a senator who is a first-time senator to rule that it is frivolous.
Senator Gay, that was not a ruling by Senator Eddy, and remember, I did not allow him. He made reference to the interruptions by members by raising points of orders. So it is not a ruling on his part, and I would like to rule you out of order. Proceed, Senator Oburu. Senator Eddy.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, because of the impatience from that side, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to continue, because every time I want to make any point, the point of order, Mr. Speaker, and he says it is
at the central bank during the time of takeover was only 93 million, Honorable Speaker. The economy was pathetic. It was basically in ICU. Honorable Speaker, as we grew up, Honorable Speaker, when you are sick, when you have malaria, you take malaria queen. I remember when we were in primary school or high school, we used to be injected, if you don't get an injection, it's like you are not going to heal. Honorable Speaker, it was painful. And since the economy was in ICU, it was dilapidated, Honorable Speaker, there are some painful decisions that must be made to ensure we recover economically, Honorable Speaker. That's why the minority side are complaining, because of the painful decisions Kenya Kwanza is taking, so that we don't sink further, Honorable Speaker. What would have happened if, Honorable Speaker, we are unable to pay Eurobond, we are unable to pay our debt, the country will be declared as distress. And the moment we are declared as distress, Honorable Speaker, we'll even suffer more. We'll pay higher interest rates because of being declared in distress or in default of paying our debt, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it is good to accept that for that reason, let us bear these painful measures that have been taken. Within a year or so, basically, we will recover fully and our people will enjoy life. The cost of living is going to come down. As you saw even yesterday, Honorable Speaker, people expected the cost of fuel to go up, but diesel, kerosene, the prices went down. Petrol, it remained the same. And I believe, even as a vice chair of energy, Honorable Speaker, we have been informed that within the next 3 months, prices are going to come down. The reason why they are still high now, Honorable Speaker, it is because there is a high demand. The winter, people are using a lot of fuel now in the Western countries because of winter. Honorable Speaker, you know there is a conflict between Ukraine and Russia. There is conflict now between Palestinians and Israelis, Honorable Speaker, and the production of fuel has gone down. That's why the prices generally are higher. And if you compare even within the region, the prices, the cost of fuel in our neighboring country, Tanzania, is higher than Kenya. Honorable Speaker, it's good to get facts right, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, also as a farmer, I want to declare in this House, Honorable Speaker, that I'm a farmer. I benefited from the subsidized fertilizer. We paid 3,500 last year, and this year it has come down to 2,500, and there is pamba harvest across our region, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, if you go to North Rift, you go to Eldoret now, you go to Elgeyo-Marakwet County, you go to Kitale, the cost of a bag, 90 kilogram bag of maize, Honorable Speaker, has dropped from as high as 8,000 to 3,000. And if you divide 3,000, simple maths, Honorable Speaker, 3,000 divided by 40 korokoro. A 90 kilo bag of maize is 40 korokoro. 3,000 divided by 40 is just 75 shillings. That is why the president said the cost of korokoro now is between 60 to 75. Those just basic, it's now 75. And I believe it will still come down even though this particular cost of 3,000 is not fair to the farmer. I know it is fair to the consumers, but to the farmer it's not fair because the production was high. So I believe this, it was better, it was wise for the president to subsidize production instead of subsidizing consumption, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to move to what the president talked about. For the less than 12 months, Honorable Speaker, the president, the government of Kenya Kwanza was able to employ 56,000, basically creating opportunities for our youth so that they can earn a living, help their families, and also ensure we don't have shortages of teachers in our schools so that we reduce the burden of our head teachers and board of management from asking for additional resources from parents to pay teachers who are under board of management, Honorable Speaker. And the president has also promised within the next 1 year or so also they are going to recruit more than 50,000 to reduce the backlog. Those who cleared school as early as 7 years ago, 10 years ago, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there is something that also the president touched, Honorable Speaker, on universal health coverage. A long time, and our people have been waiting. It is important to note, Honorable Speaker, this House passed about 4 laws recently to ensure that we actualize the UHC, Honorable Speaker, so that our people can benefit instead of relying on basically our people getting sick, going to the hospitals. We are doing preventive. And Honorable Speaker, already 100,000 community health promoters have been taken in by partnering between the national government and promoters, who were used to be called, but now the government Community health promoters, Honorable Speaker, already have equipment, they have the kits to move around, to measure pressure, take sugar, and ensure that our people don't get sick, Honorable Speaker. I'm happy that this weekend, on Sunday, the CS held, Nakumicha Susan was able to launch for West Pokot, and on Tuesday, yesterday, Honorable Speaker, the one for Elgeyo-Marakwet County was launched at Iten KMTC grounds, and now our community health promoters, Honorable Speaker, are well equipped to help our people, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to touch something that we have discussed in this house several times. I come from a region, the north of the region, where we've had insecurity for the last over 50 years, Honorable Speaker. The first battle that we fought with the people of Elgeyo-Marakwet County, West Pokot, and even Baringo County have had conflict. In terms of banditry, Honorable Speaker, started as early as 60-something. I'm told it was 60, 50-something, 69, 76. And we have lost so many lives. I'm happy that the president touched this particular issue on insecurity and said within this regime of Kenya Kwanza, banditry is going to be a thing of the past. We'll get rid of this. It's been attempted in the past, but nothing has happened. But I'm happy that he has given a firm commitment that we will get rid of this. Even currently, at the moment, Honorable Speaker, we had requested as a region that we have the KDF camps within Elgeyo-Marakwet County and West Pokot and Tiaty constituency in Baringo County, and already they've been set up. Security roads have been put in place. This thing will be sorted. The president is committed, and this thing will be sorted out once and for all, and people can have peace, people can do their farming, people can go to, our children can go to school, and we progress like everybody else, instead of talking about insecurity year in, year out. Honorable Speaker, on digitization, I remember when we went to Turkana County for Studio Mashinani, Senate Mashinani, we were able to launch free Wi-Fi's in 2 markets, and the president has committed that basically over 25,000 markets will be given hotspots, free Wi-Fi, and this has happened, and our youth are going to benefit, and all our over 1,000 wards across the country will have what we call constituency
Asubuhi njema kwako mtazamaji kokote uliko na karibu katika matangazo ya bunge la Seneti. Leo ni Jumatano tarehe 15 Novemba mwaka ni 2023 na haya ni matangazo ya moja kwa moja yakiletwa kwako na kitengo cha utangazaji cha bunge Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit tukishirikiana na shirika la utangazaji la Kenya KBC. Jina langu ni Vusaka Litu. Mtazamaji, naomba tuwe pamoja hadi tamati ya kikao. Naam, katika ratiba ya shughuli za bunge la Seneti asubuhi ya leo, yapo mambo kadha wa kadha ambayo bunge la Seneti linatarajiwa kuangalia. Na kama ilivyo desturi, kila Jumatano waziri mmoja au wawili hufika mbele ya bunge la Seneti. Na kwa vile hawa maseneta wanatuwakilisha mimi na wewe kutoka kaunti mbalimbali, na kuomba ukae utulie, manake haya maswali yanakuhusu mimi na wewe. Kwa sasa mtazamaji, naomba nikufahamishe mawaziri ambao tunawatarajia asubuhi ya leo. Kumbuka tunawatarajia tu, lakini iwapo watafika hatujui. Iwapo watakosa kufika hatujui. Tusubiri tuone mambo yatakwenda namna gani. Waziri wa kwanza ambaye tunamtarajia ni waziri msimamizi ambaye pia anasimamia wizara ya masuala ya kigeni na masuala kuhusu wa Kenya wanaoishi ugaibuni. Nazungumzia Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi. Waziri wa pili ambaye tunamtarajia ni waziri wa barabara na usafiri Mheshimiwa Onesmus Murkomen ambaye atakuwa hapa kujibu maswali kuhusiana na wizara yake ya barabara na usafiri. Na waziri wa tatu ambaye huenda afike mbele ya bunge la Seneti ni Dr. Alfred Mutua, waziri wa utalii. Kisha huenda tuwe na waziri wa fedha Profesa Njuguna Ndung'u aje mbele ya bunge la Seneti kujibu maswali kutoka kwa maseneta. Hawa wote kama nilivyokueleza watakumbana na maswali kutoka kwa maseneta kadhaa. Kwa hivyo wakati wa maswali tunatarajia Senator Lomenen, Senator Boni Khalwale, Senator Murungi, Senator Murango na wengine waulize maswali. Na kwa kawaida mimi ukueleza haya maswali yalitumwa kwa mawaziri zamani kidogo. Ina maana kwamba mawaziri wamekuwa na muda wa kutosha kupitia hayo maswali na kufanya utafiti. Kisha wanakuletea majibu mwafaka. Kwa hivyo mtazamaji, kaa tayari kusikia kutoka kwa waziri ambaye atafika mbele ya bunge la Seneti asubuhi ya leo. Na nikirejelea ratiba ya shughuli, tunayo hoja hapo nambari 8. Hoja yenyewe inahusu hotuba ya rais ambayo ilitolewa mnamo Alhamisi wiki iliyopita. Anayekuletea hoja hii si mwingine ila kiongozi wa wengi katika bunge la Seneti. Anakwenda kwa jina la Senator Cheruiyot. Mjadala huu ulianza mnamo hapo jana na leo asubuhi maseneta wanatarajia kurejelea mjadala huu. Kisha katika ratiba nambari 9 ni hoja. Kamati ambayo inafuatilia kufidiwa kwa Wakenya ambao waliathirika kwa mkasa wa bomu wa mwaka wa 1998 inaomba kuongezwa muda zaidi ili wakamilishe kazi yao. Mwenyekiti wa kamati hii ambayo ilibuniwa mnamo tarehe 27 mwezi Juni mwaka 2023 anasema muda umekuwa mchache sana. Walianza kufanya kazi lakini muda ukamalizika kabla kazi kukamilika. Wakaongezwa muda wa siku 45 na wamekuwa wakifanya kazi. Sasa inaondokea kwamba hizo siku 45 zimefika kikomo. Zilifika kikomo tarehe 10 mwezi huu, lakini tena kazi haijakamilika. Kwa hivyo mwenyekiti anaomba bunge la Seneti liwaongezee muda wa siku 100 zaidi ili wajaribu kadri ya uwezo wao kumalizia kazi na kufunganya virago. Naam, katika ratiba nambari 10 ni hoja. Hoja yenyewe inahusu kutangazwa kwa wizi wa mifugo kama janga la kitaifa na kuanzishwa kwa hazina ya waathiriwa wa wizi wa mifugo. Anayehusika na hoja hii si mwingine ila seneta wa Baringo, Senator William Cheptumo. Senator Cheptumo anasema anafahamu kwamba wizi wa mifugo ni tatizo kubwa mno katika maeneo ya kaskazini na kusini mwa bonde la Ufa na pia sehemu zingine nchini. Ni tatizo ambalo limeacha madhara makubwa katika sehemu hizi. Anasema kwamba kutokana na wizi wa mifugo, wanawake wamesalia wajane, watoto wamesalia mayatima na kuna wanaume wengi ambao wamesalia bila wake. Naam, Mpenzi mtazamaji, kufikia hapo na muona spika wa muda wakili Sigei amefika katika bunge la Seneti. Kwa hivyo ataomba kisha kikao rasmi cha bunge la Seneti asubuhi ya leo kitaanza. Mimi ni wako Vusaka Litu kwake spika wa muda.
Shall we pray? Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that will come under deliberation thus and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity and welfare of our country and of those whose interest you have committed to our charge. Amen. Mr. Clerk, could you confirm whether we have quorum to commence the session today? Sergeant at Arms, please ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes.
Naam, spika wa muda Seneta wakili Sigei amewasili, ameomba kisha amepata kwamba bunge la Seneti halina akidi. Ndio kwa maana unasikia kengele inakirizwa mtazamaji. Ameagiza kengele kukirizwa kwa muda wa dakika 10 ili bunge la Seneti lipate akidi. Lakini nikirejelea ratiba ya shughuli za bunge la Seneti asubuhi ya leo, nilikuwa nikikueleza kwamba Seneta wa Baringo, Seneta Cheptuma, anayo hoja. Inahusu kutangazwa kwa wizi wa mifugo kama janga la kitaifa na kuanzishwa kwa hazina ya waathiriwa wa wizi wa mifugo. Naam, anasema kwamba wizi wa mifugo hupelekea kusimamishwa kwa huduma zote. Ni kwa sababu kukiwa na wizi wa mifugo, hali inakuwa taharuki wala hakuna usalama. Kama ni masomo yanasitishwa, kama ni ukulima unasitishwa. Kwa sababu madaktari hawezi fika kazini, wakulima hawezi fika shambani pasipo usalama. Naam. Eti watu ambao wanaishi katika sehemu hizi, sehemu ambazo nilikutajia kaskazini mwa Kenya, wanaishia kukosa ama kunyimwa haki zao za kijamii, haki za kiuchumi na haki za kisiasa kwa sababu ya wizi wa mifugo. Kumbuka hizi haki ni za kila Mkenya kulingana na katiba yetu. Kwa hivyo Seneta Cheptumo anaomba bunge la Seneti kupitia wizara ya masuala ya ndani ya nchi na mipango ya kitaifa itangaze wizi wa mifugo kama janga la kitaifa. Anaomba wizara hiyo ya waziri Profesa Kindiki ibuni kamati maalum. Kazi ya kamati hiyo itakuwa kuchunguza kiini cha wizi wa mifugo na pia kubaini madhara yaliyotolewa na visa vya wizi wa mifugo katika jamii zilizoathirika. Hatimaye Seneta wa Baringo anaitaka wizara ya Profesa Kindiki izindue hazina ya kuwafidia waathiriwa wa wizi wa mifugo na kuwapa makao mapya. Katika ratiba tunayo hoja katika nambari 11 inahusu kutwaliwa kwa mali ya watu ambao wanakosa kulipa mikopo kutoka kwa taasisi mbalimbali za kukopesha pesa. Anayehusika na hoja hii si mwingine ila Seneta Wahome wa Matinga. Katika ratiba pia shughuli nambari 12 ni hoja yake Seneta Crystal Asige. Inahusu siku ya kutotumia magari kila mwezi na maeneo ambapo magari hayataruhusiwa. Seneta Asige anasema anaelewa fika kwamba Wakenya wana haki ya kuwa na mazingira safi na yenye afya. Hii ni kwa mujibu wa kipengee 42 cha katiba yetu. Senator Sige pia anaelewa usafiri, yani transportation, ndio mojawapo ya vitu ambavyo vinachangia pakubwa kwa uchafuzi wa mazingira. Na ni kweli kwamba tumeshuhudia ongezeko la magari ya kibinafsi katika barabara zetu humu nchini. Anasema pasipo kudhibiti hali hii, ni wazi kwamba uchafuzi wa mazingira utazidi na hali ya hewa itazidi kudorora zaidi. Anasema hali hii itawadhuru Wakenya wengi pakubwa. Kwa hivyo Senator Sige anaiomba Wizara ya Barabara na Usafiri ishirikiane na Baraza la Magavana na pia Baraza la Kitaifa kuhusiana na mabadiliko ya hali ya anga ili wachukue hatua kadha wa kadha. Akipewa nafasi utapata kusikia mengi zaidi kuhusu hoja hiyo kutoka kwa Senator Crystal Asige. Naam, wakati wa maswali, Senator James Lomenen wa Turkana County ana maswali kwa waziri msimamizi ambaye pia ni waziri ambaye pia anasimamia Wizara ya Masuala ya Nje na Wakenya wanaoishi ugaibuni, samahani. Nazungumzia Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi. Senator Lomenen anaomba kujua ni sababu gani serikali yetu haijashughulika kusaidia wafugaji wa kuhamahama kutoka kaunti ya Turkana ambao walitiwa mbaroni nchini Uganda. Wafugaji nasemekana walivuka hadi kata ya Moroto kule Uganda wakiwa katika shughuli ya kutafuta malisho kwa mifugo wao. Askari wa Uganda wakawatia mbaroni na hata kuwafikisha mahakamani nchini Uganda. Inasemekana tangu mwaka jana hadi sasa hawa Wakenya wanazuiliwa nchini Uganda. Kisha Senator Lomenen anauliza ni lini ambapo serikali itaingilia kati ili kuona kwamba Wakenya hawa wameachiliwa. Kengele bado inakirizwa, mpenzi mtazamaji, ina maana kwamba bunge la seneti halijapata akidi. Hivyo basi nazidi kusonga mbele. Tunamtarajia Waziri Murkomen, waziri wa barabara na usafiri, naye atakabiliana na maswali kutoka kwa Seneta Mwenda Gataya Mofaya, seneta wa Tharaka Nithi County. Huyu seneta anaomba kujua ni kwa nini ujenzi wa barabara ya kutoka Kajiunduthi hadi Marima imesimama. Ujenzi wa barabara umesimama. Barabara yenyewe inatakiwa kupitia Iriga kwenda Chogoria, kufika Weru, Mutindwa, Kiriaini na hatimaye kumalizikia sehemu ambayo inaitwa Marima. Seneta Gataya Mofaya analalamika kwamba ujenzi wenyewe ulianza mwaka wa 2016. Miaka 5 baadaye ujenzi huu haujakamilika. Ni kwa nini? Wizara ya Mheshimiwa Murkomen inachukua hatua gani kuona kwamba ujenzi wa barabara hii unakamilika? Hili ni ombi la Seneta Gataya Mofaya ambaye pia anamtaka Waziri Murkomen atoe makataa, yani deadline ya kurudia ujenzi wa barabara hii. Hatimaye Seneta Gataya Mofaya anasema barabara katika sehemu fulani hazipitiki. Sehemu zenyewe anazitaja ni pamoja na Gitumbani, Mutindwa, sehemu ambayo inaitwa Gantwaki, Kajiunduthi, Kiriaini na Marima. Anaomba kujua hatua ambazo Waziri Murkomen anachukua ili kuhakikisha hizo barabara zinapitika. Ije jua, ije mvua. Yani katika misimu yote barabara zipitike. Wizara ya Waziri Murkomen inachukua hatua gani? Samahani, sio seneta bali Waziri Murkomen pia anatarajiwa kujibu maswali kutoka kwa Senator Peris Tobiko. Senator Tobiko anasema barabara ya Imaroro kuelekea Isara katika kaunti ya Kajiado haina matuta, yani bumps, ya kudhibiti kasi ya magari. Anasema kwamba matuta yanahitajika katika maeneo yenye soko, karibu na shule na pia kwenye daraja. Kwa sababu hakuna matuta, ajali za barabarani zimekuwa nyingi mno. Kwa hivyo Senator Peris Tobiko anauliza, je, kuna mipango yoyote ya kuweka matuta katika barabara hiyo? Ndilo swali ambalo Senator Tobiko anamwelekezea Waziri Murkomen. Swali lingine ni, je, Wizara ya Barabara na Usafiri ina mipango ya kuboresha barabara ya Isinya kuelekea Konza? Iwapo hiyo mipango ipo, itaanza lini? Senator James Murango wa kaunti ya Kirinyaga ni mwingine ambaye ana maswali kwa Waziri Murkomen. Anauliza, je, wanakandarasi ambao wamepewa tenda ya ujenzi wa barabara katika kaunti ya Kirinyaga wamefanya miradi gani ya kijamii, yani corporate social responsibility? Senator Murango anaomba kwamba wanakandarasi hao kupitia Wizara ya Elimu wafanye jitihada kuboresha miundombinu katika shule moja ya msingi na pia shule moja ya sekondari. Swali lingine ni kuhusu ujenzi wa barabara inayotoka Mururi kuelekea sehemu ambayo inaitwa Kiumbu. Barabara hii inapitia Uramandi, Ngushui, Mahigaini, Nyamindi, Kianugu na hatimaye kumalizikia sehemu ambayo inaitwa Kiumbu. Seneta Murango anataka kujua ni kwa nini ujenzi haujaanza ilhali mwanakandarasi alikwisha pewa tenda. Na tukisalia katika masuala ya barabara hiyo, Seneta Murango anaomba kujua hali iko namna gani kuhusu tenda hiyo ambayo imechelewa kuanza. Zaidi ni kwamba serikali kupitia Wizara ya Barabara na Ujenzi inachukua hatua gani kuona kwamba ujenzi huu unaanza mara moja, na mwanakandarasi atachukua muda gani kukamilisha kazi ambayo amepewa. Akidi tunayo hatuna. Tumepata akidi, kwa hivyo kikao rasmi cha bunge la Seneti kianze. Asante.
Senator Boni Halwale. Senator Boni. Senator Boni. Senator Boni Halwale. Please resume your seats. Thank you. Clerk, proceed.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion.
Honorable members, the motion on the extension of the mandate of the ad hoc committee on the compensation of the Kenya victims of the 1998 bombing of the United States of America Embassy in Nairobi. This is Senator Kavindu's motion. Any member to that particular committee? Clerk, we can defer this. Let's call the next order. For purposes of proceeding, honorable members, we will rearrange the order paper because we have one cabinet secretary present. Right now, we will rearrange the order paper so that we can proceed. I'm informed that the cabinet secretary for tourism is present. Very well, you present for the. Okay, fine. I am informed that the cabinet secretary for tourism is present. Once we are done with that motion that Senator Chute will do on behalf of Senator Kavindu, we will rearrange the order paper so that we can deal with the questions to the CS who is present in the chamber already. Senator Chute, take the floor.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. This is, Honorable Speaker, is a notice of motion, extension of the mandate of the ad hoc committee on the compensation to the Kenya victims of the 1998 bombing on the United States of America Embassy in Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that aware that the sitting of the Senate held on Thursday, 27th June 2023, the Senate resolves to establish an ad hoc committee to investigate the compensation to the Kenya victims of 1998 bombing of the United States of America Embassy in Nairobi and report back to the House within 3 months of its establishment. Realizing that the extension period of 45 days of the tenure of ad hoc committee lapsed on 10th November 2023, yet the committee has a lot of work to execute to conclude in conducting the inquiry. Now, therefore, the Senate resolves to renew the mandate of ad hoc committee for a further period of 100 days from 10th November 2023 to enable the committee to finalize and table its report in the Senate on or before 18 February 2024. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Chute, you have not called out someone to second your motion. That's not Clerk.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable members, I am informed, as earlier on stated, that we have the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism present in the chamber, and we will begin with that. I believe it's being ushered in. And the question is by the Honorable Senator James Murango, MP from Kirinyaga County. Senator James Murango, I believe he has delegated the question to someone else. That's question number 57 on the order paper. Honorable CS, welcome to the Senate together with your team. And I would like to appreciate you for taking your time to respond to our invitation to answer 2 questions. This, remember, is part of the mandate of this House in order to ensure that Kenyans are actually delivered for the services by the relevant ministries. And in this particular case, we have one question by Senator James Murango from Kirinyaga County. But Senator Wamatinga, you proceed to answer the question to the Honorable CS.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I am holding brief for Senator Murango, Kirinyaga County. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide a report to all cases of human-wildlife conflict from Kirinyaga Central constituency in Kirinyaga County? And B, when will the defective electric fence which allows wild animals from Mount Kenya Forest to cross over into Kiandaka, Giatadha, and Kwaeriot villages in Kirinyaga County where they attack people and destroy property be repaired? And C, when will the government pay compensation for the loss of wildlife, injuries, and property damages resulting from the human-wildlife conflicts in Kirinyaga Central constituency? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Senator Wamatinga. Honorable CS, I will invite you to respond to the question, and thereafter, if there are any additional or supplementary questions from members, you will also be at liberty to do so. I am aware, and I want to acknowledge the fact that you already received your written response, and therefore I believe your response will be within the context of your response, and additional info where necessary will be provided. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable members, and I'm very happy to be here. It's the first time I'm coming to the Senate to answer a question as the Minister for Tourism and Wildlife, and I think it's a very, very important forum. For the first question, I would like to respond as following: that from January 2013 to date, a total of 14 human-wildlife conflict cases have been reported to KWS as indicated in the attached Table 1. All the incidences were attended, damage assessed, and compensation claims forms issued, awaiting their recommendation for payment by the Kirinyaga Community Wildlife Conservation Committee. And Mr. Speaker, it's attached there, table 1, with the 14 various names and various incidents. For the second question, Mr. Speaker, about the defective electric fence, I'd like to respond as follows. That Kenya Wildlife Service has procured 2 battery and a solar panel in the process of fixing them, and in the process of fixing them to enhance enough voltage along the affected fence line. However, vandalism of the electric fence has been the main challenge. The fence has been effective in managing wildlife encroachment up until July 2023, when the Gikumbo battery and solar panel were stolen by some members of the public. The last question about the payment of compensation for loss of life, injuries and property damage, I reply as follows. In the current human-wildlife conflict compensation disbursement, 17 individuals from Kirinyaga County have been benefited from allocated funds of 1.44500 million, that is 1.4 million shillings, and these are as indicated in an attached file. Another 7 members who are not in the list, comprising of 3 human injuries, 3 crop destruction and property damage, have also been approved at a value of another 1.418 million and will be funded as indicated also in table 3. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable CS, I thank you for your concise response to those particular questions. I will allow, as the tradition of this House, Senator Wamatinga, if you have any supplementary question to the Honorable CS, it is your opportunity to ask for the CS to respond. Thereafter, I will allow honorable members with supplementary questions, and in particular related to the question, the primary question that the Honorable CS had been invited to respond to this morning. So, Senator Wamatinga, you may ask your supplementary question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I would wish to give the colleagues a chance to ask their questions, then I'll ask mine towards the end. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, Senator Wambua Enoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. The CS said that it's the first time for him to appear before the Senate to engage in this manner. And it is my first time to engage with a CS after the court ruling the other day. So, Mr. Speaker, I'll beg your indulgence if I'm off the track. You know, we are just learning these things.
Senator Wambua, I've guided you accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Your questions supplementary to the CS should be in the confines of the primary question that came, but that does not mean that you also do not inquire what the CS can be able to respond to you this morning.
Mr. Speaker, the beauty of it is that you're dealing with a very fast learner. I'm guided.
Thank you.
The Speaker, on the matter of human-wildlife conflict, it's actually a shame that 60 years after independence, we are still grappling with the basics of the issue of human-wildlife conflict. The Speaker, I have a case in point. 2 weeks ago, in a ward called Tharaka in Kitui County, we lost a schoolgirl to a snake bite. Now, the agony of the loss is that she was bitten by a black mamba. And in the list of the animals which would attract compensation from government, black mamba is not listed. So in essence, that girl is just lost, and that is it. There's nothing we can do about that. We have a lot of black mambas in Kitui, and they are very, very aggressive snakes. Our people are dying out of snake bites from black mamba, but the excuse given by KWS and the government is that there is no provision for compensation if you are bitten by a black mamba. What is the ministry doing to address this issue? And lastly, the Speaker, because I saw the CS the other day, he was in my county helping with planting of trees. The bigger the vegetation, the more the infestation by black mambas. So after he has done something that will attract more black mambas in Kitui, what are they going to do to ensure that then our people, if they are beaten by that snake, they are compensated? So Speaker, I think I've done well for the first time. I thank you.
Very well, you have. I wanted to remind you that you are only entitled to ask one question. I thought your second bit was a question, but as you said, your first learner, the first question will be dealt with by the CS. Now, honorable members and CS, I've got a good number of members who wants to ask questions. I'll ask that we take 3 questions so that you answer them in sequence rather than taking on and off. So I will invite Senator Mundigi Alex Munyi.
Bwana Spika, swali yangu kwa Cabinet Secretary, katika Embu County kuna game reserve inaitwa Mwea Game Reserve. Iko na ndovu 200 karibu na 50. Wakati wa kiangazi pale kuna mtu anaitwa Dhipa, silifuka ikaenda Mafuria Ward, na hizi nyingine ikaenda Mwea Ward, na hizi nyingine ikawa hiyo Makema Ward. Na wakati wananchi walipiga kelele, hakuna kazi yoyote ilifanyika kwa sababu wale game reserves walisema hakuna mahali hizo ndovu zitapelekwa mpaka wangoje waamrishwe. Ikaa karibu miezi 2, miezi 3 na ikasumbua watu sana. Nilikuwa naomba Bwana Waziri, ni hatua gani utasukua ndio mvua ikipungua ndio isiweze kwenda kusumbua watu tena, kwa sababu Pandai ilikuja kasukura na magari ikapelekwa. Kwa hiyo nakuuliza Bwana Waziri, ndio hiyo mambo isifanyike katika Embu County Mbere South, utasukua hatua gani ndio kitu kama hiyo isifanyike? Na pia hapo hakuna hata simba hata moja kwa hiyo game reserve. Asante Bwana Waziri.
Thank you, Senator Mundigi. I want to ask Senator Manzo. Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I had brought a request of statement much earlier in relation to wildlife conflict in Makwiny. Recently, the minister visited Masonga Leni, and as soon as he left, the elephants attacked people. I want to ask him, what is he doing about the conservancies, which are neighboring Makwiny County, and are actually illegal conservancies, which have not been approved by KWS, and they are the ones which are allowing animals to cross to Kibwezi East and Makwiny generally to terrorize people. And in fact, quite a number of people have died. What is he doing about their compensation? The people, the injuries, and the food which has been destroyed, you know, the crops. And finally, in relation to the same, you promised to extend the fence within a month. When are you going to do this? Because the month is over and there's no effort. And from my knowledge of government and parliament, there has to be a budget before you extend the fencing. Where is that budget and how much is it? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable CS, you may respond to those 3 questions so that we also can take the next batch of questions from members. And very well, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, honorable members, for the very insightful questions. Let me start with a question from good Senator of Kitui, Enoch Wambua, the quick learner. And Mheshimiwa, it is quite sad about the loss of life due to snake bites. I lived in Australia, a country that has the top 10 most poisonous snakes in the world, whereby you find that in a year they can go with no recorded case of a person dying as a result of snake bite. It breaks my heart to hear of the girl who has died from a snake bite from a black mamba, whose venom kills you within half an hour if unattended to. And the challenge we are facing in the country is that for a long time, we have not really instituted systems of prevention and treatment. Many places you'll find that there is no snake antivenom. In Kenya, we don't produce any snake antivenom. It all comes from South Africa or India or from Europe and other countries. One of the first duties that I made, and I think it's very important to be self-sufficient, COVID taught us that, was to go to a research institute and center in Naivasha, and we have started the process together with others to produce our own snake antivenom in this country. There should be basically in every health center, which is within 10-kilometer distance of everybody in this country, a snake antivenom with a properly trained person who can actually take care of that. Many people die from snake bites just because of lack of treatment on time. Snakes don't have to kill you.